Board of Education regular session, November 23rd, 2021. Roll call, please. Pat.
Eric Dumont.
Here.
Derek Gander.
Present.
Dr. Joseph.
Here.
John Hurd.
Present.
Riley Hartwell.
Here.
Brett Jordan.
Present.
Jeff Coe.
Present. Y'all please stand and join me in pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Just before you start, I've got a computer issue here. I'm hoping to, is there a password, a new password on Superintendent?
Nothing I'm aware
Mine, I
of.
had a key in a couple times to get it.
Aaron, he's thinking computer.
All right, is that on Similar or is that? Okay, while they're working on that, I'm going to ask for a special approval of the agenda with a motion to approve the agenda as the following amendment: remove number 3 from the regular agenda and change the order for Dover Hill Trench Rock. That one was not ready as posted. So if anybody.
So moved as amended.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Derek. Discussion, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, the motion passes. Okay. First up, reports. We do have a few celebrations to share. All right, first up. All right, honoring veterans. So the Joplin Early Childhood Celebration. Joplin High School color poems, sang songs, and recognized veterans from our community.
I was there. That was actually, it worked out well being
Very nice.
outside.
Very good, thank you. Next up, outstanding leader, Crystal Stokes Danner, president of Joplin National Education Association, has been awarded the MNEA Shirley Cromer Leadership Award. The recognition named for the past MNEA president, Shirley Cromer, is presented annually to the Missouri NEA member who exemplifies qualities of outstanding leadership. A monetary grant to cover conference expenses or a continuing education class is part of that award. So congratulations, Crystal.
And Crystal's with us. And she's got her mic with her.
Very nice. Congratulations. We held a ribbon cutting at Kelsey Norman. So the ribbon cutting for the completed edition at Kelsey Norman Elementary was also a costume party for the 280 students in attendance on Friday, October 29th. District leaders thanked the voters for passing the bond issue responsible for making the addition possible, as well as Crossland Construction, Corner Greer Architects, Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce, and staff, students, and family of Kelsey Norman for waiting patiently for the needed additional space. The 8,500 square foot addition was completed on time, under budget, and includes 5 classrooms, a conference room, and a large multi-purpose area. Great event. Thank you, guys. And then bowling for the perfect game. North Middle School special education students recently hit the bowling lanes to record preliminary scores before the statewide Special Olympics competition in December. North Middle School peer buddies accompanied and assisted their bowlers. The excitement and kinship that came from the student athletes and their buddies was amazing to watch. Peer buddies involves more than pairing a student with special needs with a general education student. Peer buddies at North Middle School is a program that helps promote friendship, emphasizes social needs, and fosters a greater sense of belonging and a more inclusive community for all involved. So, Peer Buddies, that's a great program. Okay, Certified Evaluation Work Group. So a district work group has been assembled to improve the evaluation process for our certified staff. In its initial meeting, the group reviewed the results of a teacher survey, examine the evaluation policy, and critique the district's current evaluation tool. The conversation is focused on relevant evaluation tool that will help professionals grow and provide specific expectations. Common recommendations included self-reflection, growth, data, walkthrough forms, timelines that coordinate with the school improvement cycle. An overview of the evaluation tool will be presented to the board in the near future. So it's great that we got people involved in the evaluation process to help us work through that new work group. Next up, these socks rocks. Bright Futures Joplin collected more than 1,500 pair of socks for underprivileged students this October. Sarah Coyne and the Bright Futures Joplin board and volunteers are grateful for everyone that donated socks. Special recognition goes out to two organizations. Kansas City University donated 911 pairs of socks from both Joplin and Kansas City campuses. And the Joplin High School FCCLA Club collected socks at the high school. So thank you for bringing Socktober to Joplin. And then last one, instructional focus. Getting back to instructional focus has been a huge emphasis this year. Middle school principals recently spent time doing collaborative walkthroughs at each middle school building. Here's some of the great things the principals observed. Learning intentions and success criteria were evident. Classrooms with word walls and standards were posted. Students engaged in the read aloud and article discussions. Edmentum trophy posters, great motivators for students. A sense of community, a classroom atmosphere. Curriculum pacing was similar from building to building, and consistent support of the RACER, restate, answer, cite, explain, and restate method for question response. The walkthroughs provided a great opportunity for consistency among campuses and growth in instructional leadership. So good opportunity for all of our middle school principals to tour the schools together. So that's all of our celebrations. Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Board Policy Committee.
Yeah, so we met, I think it's been a couple of weeks ago now. So typically when we bring a new policy or an update to you, it generally comes from an MSBA recommendation or the new legislation that might come out that might gear or steer towards, updating our policies. But the four you have before you tonight are all policies that we adjusted within our policy committee, looking at different policies and feeling like they need to be updated to fit our district. So those are before you tonight. The one that probably most directly affects us or some of our business would be the first one there. It deals with public participation at board meetings. And so one of the things that we decided was that someone who wants to speak to the board, we want them to come in a little sooner. So the day of, like by 3 o'clock. And so that way we might have an opportunity to address some of their concerns because sometimes they present and we don't say anything. And sometimes I think there's a feeling there might be a disconnect, but we get them in a little sooner so we can maybe do some little researching prior to. And then also not wanting to limit some of our public. So our current policy states that it needs to deal with an action item. So they come in, they want to speak on an action item. We also included an action item from the month prior to. So if there's something that we pass prior to this particular meeting, we invite them to speak on that as well. So but the nuts and bolts of that are in your packet as well. So that's what you have before you.
All right. Next up, we got the superintendent's data report.
And first on the list is our audit report. Westbrook has completed that, and I believe, is she virtual?
She is.
Okay, so Eric's queuing her up. You'll have an opportunity to then vote to accept that report.
Hello, good evening.
Can she hear us?
Can you hear us? Maybe? Yes, I'm sorry, are you guys ready for me? I didn't hear you switch to me.
Action.
Okay, sorry about that. Hello, everybody. My name is Mandy Schumann, and I am one of the district auditors with Westbrook Company. I've seen most of, or you probably have seen me last year, so thank you for letting me join into your audit tonight, to your meeting tonight to talk about the audit. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to go through the presentation with you. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through the audit report, but you can feel free to just follow along on the slides with me, and then I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have. And I'm going to share my screen, but it's not just your paper. Is that something you could change real quick?
We're gonna work on that.
Sorry about that. And if not, if you have the PowerPoint up there, I can just go through it. I'll be fine also. Yep, there we go. Thank you. Okay.
Got it.
So I will just start out with our audit opinion. The financial statements were presented fairly, so this is a clean audit opinion. We continue to audit, there aren't any material adjustments or actually any adjustments that have to be made. So the financial statements are good standing. So this is always a good place to start. This is the district statement of activities for the year ended June 30th of 2021. So to the left, you can see expenditures broken down by function, and to the right of those expenditures are going to be any program revenues that came in to offset those expenditures. So this is going to be any charges for services, any operating or capital grants and contributions. And then to the far right, we have a net expenditure column. At the very bottom, you'll see net expenditures of about $64.6 million. Just know that then those expenditures are covered by your general revenues. So your property taxes, basic formula, sales tax, those other revenues that aren't presented on this slide. Now, we do red box the areas of food service and community service because those are the two areas where the district could break even. We don't always see that, but those would be the opportunities where you would see that. So we just point out those two areas. This is found in your financial statements. This is the district's balance sheet as of June 30th of 2021. So here you can see cash balances broken down by funds for total cash balances of just over $111 million. Below that, you'll see there were some payroll liabilities as of year end of about $1.4 million. And then in the footnote, we can see a little breakdown as far as what makes up those balances. So in the general fund, there was about $899,000 that was restricted for scholarships. We also had about $990,000 that was a fund for student activities. And then around $836,000 in the general fund was a fund for food service. Down towards the bottom, the top line up, you'll see unassigned in the general fund was about $33.6 million. So this would be left over to pay your general operating expenditures. Now in the debt service fund, those funds are of course restricted for debt service. And then capital project fund, we have some unspent bond proceeds for the series 2020 building bond. That was about $44 million as of year end. And then below that, we'll see some committed funds. So the committed amount are for projects that would have been approved before year end, but weren't complete or weren't paid until after year end. So those would be projects that were outside of the bond project. And then of course, any funds left over in the capital project fund are going to be assigned for future capital outlay. This is, I apologize, I'm a little small to be here, but this is the district statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. So this kind of gives us a big picture for the year. You can see revenues broken down by fund and by source. For total revenues of about 98.9 million. Below that, we can see expenditures broken down by fund and by function. For total expenditures of 87.7 million. And then below that, we'll see any transfers, and here we have 25 million for the proceeds from the 2020 bond. Overall, we have lots of right here. You can see that fund balances increased for the year, just over 36 million. The largest of that increase was, of course, in capital project fund, 25 million of it from the bond proceeds. But overall, we had an increase across the board in each fund for the year ended June 30th, 2020. In the notes to the financial statements, you can find information about the district bonds payable as of year end. You can see payable balances as well as amounts due within the next year. And then you can see the detail of the various bonds that make up the total as well as interest rates. During our presentation, we want to show some graphs. So this chart here shows revenues broken down by source and shows you a comparative from year to year. So you can see historically what percentage of the district revenues have been local, what has been county, state, and federal. And if you look at the federal column here, you'll see that federal revenues are up about 4%. We expected that with all of the CARES funds that the district were receiving. We've seen increases in federal revenues and expenditures across the board. We then present the same sort of information for you can see historically how expenditures have fared out from year to year as far as what we spent on housing benefits, the services, the items and capital outlays. And if we look here, just over a 5-year trend, expenditures were pretty consistent from year to year. Then we show a couple of trends. The top graph here is district reserves. They were about 49.26% as of year end, so up about 8% from the prior year. And then below that, we have average daily attendance. Now, average daily attendance dropped just over 500 from the prior year. This was not unusual for a school district this year. It decreased to 8 days based on various ways that attendance was required to be reported, whether the student was a high school student or virtual, post-quarantine. So we would expect this to come up, but this drop here is not unusual. During audit, we were inclined to take the transportation and budget, and we don't have any instances of time. So we also get instructions. Well, if you look at our work internal control, it's because we don't have the non-internal control. However, we assess them to help us determine the scope of our audit and develop our audit procedure. We didn't have any instances of material rights or significant deficiencies that were reported over internal control. I'm sorry, over the financial statement. We also didn't have control over federal compliance, and we also did not report any deficiencies in the area and didn't not compliant over federal programs. We audited the coronavirus relief fund and the education stabilization fund, or the ESSER fund. You may know it as the major programs this year. And this slide just shows a summary of what we talked about the financial statement or not. We didn't report any weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting or over federal programs, and no compliance issues were reported. Now, at the bottom here, I would just like to point this out where it says is the audit qualified as low risk and no. This is because the district reports on a cash basis. So you report revenues when you receive them and expenditures when they're paid. And this is common practice for the school district. Are cash basis. And so the uniform guide for federal programs just the cash basis. they can be considered low risk. And so what this means is a higher percentage of your federal programs have to be audited. So it's nothing to be alarmed about. If you explain that, because you're low risk, 40% of your federal, or sorry, because you're not low risk, 20% of your federal programs are required to be audited versus 25%. So I would just like to provide a little explanation. And again, there were no deficiencies over the financial statements or federal reports that were reported, and so it's really non-compliant. Then we have our required communications letter. This is a separate report, and here is where we can put for any general recommendations or best practices or any efficiencies that we would recommend to the district. We look at different areas each year, and this year when we were looking at fuel usage, we noticed that the district has good procedures in place as far as requiring drivers to report the fuel that was suspended, the odometer reading, miles traveled, and then that information is turned over to the transportation department and put into a spreadsheet for that to be tracked. But we noted that there wasn't a reconciliation between the information reported on that spreadsheet and the gallons that were dispensed from the fuel tank. So we would recommend that the district consider some electronic reporting. This would be in the case of the future if you were to upgrade your fuel tanks or get new fuel tanks, that there is some electronic reporting that will automatically provide that information. But if not, that there should be a reconciliation between what's being provided to the transportation department and what's being dispensed from the fuel tank. Additionally, we noted that not all departments are reporting or documenting all the fuel that was spent. So we would just recommend that everybody be tracking that and reporting it and providing it to the transportation department so that some analytics can be done as far as miles per gallon and that there can be a review of any fuel efficiency there. And then the next comment here is just in regards to revenue. When we were looking at revenues at the tech center, we noticed that they use RevTech for reporting of their report accepting electronic payments from parents. When a payment comes in, sometimes we notice that it was placed to a holding account rather than to the specific activity, and then later on it would be journal entry out from the holding account to the activity in which it belongs to. We would just recommend that whenever these payments occur, that the research be done up front to figure out what this payment is for and then put it directly into the activity account for which it belongs. It just eliminates issues with financial statement transparency, and you have journal entry going in and out of accounts. It kind of muddies up the financial statement a little bit, and it also causes additional work to go back and figure out, okay, what was this payment for, and then we have to make a journal entry to fix it. So we would just recommend that the research be done up front and it be coded to the correct account. Now, we did notice that with the Arbitrage program, it seems like there are some older account numbers in there, and so sometimes it could be confusing for a parent on which account they should pick, or maybe they're paying for multiple accounts. So we just also are recommending a struggle with this Arbitrage program to update the accounts and maybe get rid of some of those older accounts so that it's clear for a parent when they're going online to pick which activity they want to pay for, and then in that case, it automatically gets coded to the correct place right up front. So taking this is a recommendation there, but that concludes my presentation. It was a really clean audit, and we just always appreciate Dr. Moss and Shelley and their staff there at Central Office. They always have things turned around to us quickly and really seems to work well together, and we appreciate working with everybody there. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I have a question. I do notice and want to point out that there were no findings, and I'm just wondering, has that happened in your audits with Joplin before? I know we've had some non-material in the past. Is this the first time we've had zero finding?
I couldn't hear that, sorry.
What do I do?
Say it again.
You have to go over there. This is a shameless opportunity to point out that we had 0 findings, and I'm just trying to recall. I know we've had good audits before, but is this perhaps the first year we've had absolutely no material or non-material findings?
You guys have good segregation of duties, so I don't think we've had any deficiencies over internal control in the past, but it does seem like there's usually, the findings are usually in the areas of attendance or transportation, and it seems like there's always something that pops up there that's required to be corrected. So a clean audit to have no findings is awesome, especially with attendance this year. As you know, the tracking of attendance and the reporting of it was just very cumbersome. And so the team there really did a good job getting that all together. So yeah, it's really impressive, and it is rare to have no findings.
Well, I just wanted to brag on Kelly and Richard Cummings and Nathan and all the people on the team that have scrubbed that data and worked so hard on it the whole year, because this was a challenging year with lots of extra funds to keep track of. So thank you for letting me emphasize that.
Yes, that was being emphasized for sure. So yeah, it's always a great audit, and we appreciate all the team. And so everybody's really efficient, and everyone works hard to get everything together and, do a good job of being thorough in the process.
I have one question, and maybe Shelley can answer this. I know sometimes it's hard to hear, but on page 14, under other financing sources, uses, proceeds from sale of bonds, it says 25 million.
Page 14.
What was it? Am I not correct to say that we received an additional dollars? Our bond receipts came in higher than 25 million?
There was, I believe that is, yeah. That went into, it was 1.3 million, and I am not for sure where they put that.
Mandy, they're asking about the premium on the bond sale, and I guess where did that get coded on your side of the financials? Because we just coded the flat 25 million as bond proceeds. There was also the 1.3 million, of course, we had some cost of like 100-some-thousand came out of that as well.
Yeah, that's going to be up in the local revenue section. That goes, it's a 5,100 account, Shelley. That
Okay.
goes up in local revenue. So it's going to be reflected in that form. That's the top of the capital section.
The first line then.
So it's like, okay.
Thank you, Mandy.
Good catch, Riley. That was very observant.
All right. No further questions.
Okay.
And we'll
And then
approve that
we'll-
later on.
Yes. Good job, Shelley.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, the next item is our solar block presentation, and we have some guests here tonight from Liberty Utilities. And Carrie, are you going to cue us up on
Yes,
that?
Jordan Bollinger's here, as well as Sean Rooney, and if you want to come up and talk to us just briefly, right here at these two seats right here. So we can speak in the microphone, and I'll just give them a rundown. We've been looking at a lot of different ways, looking at solar from different angles, from different people and different ways to kind of dip our toe in the water to try to start moving towards solar energy for at least some of our buildings. And we talked to Liberty about a program that they have called the Community Solar Program. And the two representatives are here to briefly tell you about what we were going to bring to an action item later to give you a little bit better explanation about how the program works. Okay?
So I'll just start real quick. I'm Jordan Bollinger, Territory Manager of Business and Community Development with Liberty. Just a little bit about the Community Solar Pilot Program. So it originally came out when the Senate passed Bill 564, which stated that we needed to implement community solar. So we built a 2.25 megawatt solar facility that allows our customers to subscribe and to in turn get the energy from what is produced there. So it's going to give them renewable energy. It is obviously cheaper, and it is going to afford them having to maintain, install any kind of solar installation on their homes. Down of the program, we've already subscribed and completely filled our first facility. So what we're doing now is, going out there and finding those who can benefit from the program. We are looking to fill a waiting list, and then we're going to get to building subsequent facilities. So the one currently is located off of Prosperity. So I don't know if you've driven down 249 or not, but if you look over, if you're headed, let's see, north, and you look over to the east, you can see those panels. They are of the program, and I'll let you tell some cool stuff about it.
Yeah, so as she said, it's called Prosperity. It's built on actually what's EPA Superfund site. So that's actually, distressed land that really didn't have any other good use. It's part of the Orinoco-Dunweg Mining Belt Superfund site. It's 2.2 megawatts. So it's got a better. Some of the other advantages of a subscription program is, having solar installed on your home is something in the past that's only been available to homeowners. So for those folks that do not own their home, that rent or whatever, this is their opportunity to get in on renewable energy to offset some of their consumption at home. So I guess I should have started off with an intro, but I'm Sean Rooney. I'm Senior Manager of Strategic Projects. So I do a lot of projects, basically our energy generation projects. I was our project manager for our 2 Missouri wind farms. So there'll be a project manager for the company, someone like me, probably will be me, that's experienced in deploying these energy projects that'll oversee the construction of this. So I think it's an exciting opportunity. I've got, I guess I'm a stakeholder. I've got 2 students down at Stapleton Elementary. So actually your Veterans Day program there, my son had a little speaking role in that Veterans Day program. So if anybody has any questions about solar or the technology or any of that, I'd be happy to answer.
You said it's a waiting list. How long is that waiting list, and when do you anticipate being able to move off of that waiting list to put it back?
So what we're looking for and what we would like to happen would be for Joplin schools to subscribe. Once we have that filled, then we would go to the commission and we would put forth and say, we have, our waiting list filled. We would like to build, if we were just building for you and nobody else on a wait list, which we do have residentials on a wait list, then we would say we would like to build a 5.7 megawatt solar facility. They would then approve that process and we would be able to move forward in construction. So ideally, I think we would be looking at 18 months probably before I think that would probably be, fingers crossed, 18 months when the facility would be up and running and savings would then essentially start. But subsequent from our very first tariff, in order to move forward with our next facility, we do have to have the full unit subscribed to. And we can make that unit as large as we need to. Ideally, the larger that we go, I think it's going to be more cost beneficial. So that is one part of the program that you are going to pay for. So there's 2 charges with it, and one of them is going to be based on the cost of construction. So that's a really great thing, because what that means is customers who aren't taking part in this program, there's no skin off their back, if you will. They are not having to subsidize. Nothing is affecting them. So you pay a little bit of charge for that. And then the energy use to get the energy to you is a small charge, which is less than what you're paying per kilowatt hour receiving our power that we're generating outside of the renewable. So there's those 2 points to it. The other thing that I do want to mention is that in upcoming rate cases, there is one portion of that could potentially increase with the rate case. However, the block charge is something that's going to stay the same. The only thing that could happen to that block charge is it could drop. To continue to build these facilities, if the cost becomes less, then those savings would be passed down to the other subscribers. So your block charge will never increase. It's also a way, to help you sustain as we look to the future and what would happen. What we would be asking for and what we do require for the size of blocks that Joplin schools would be subscribing to would be a 10-year contract. Residential, we look at a 3-year contract. So you're signing on to receive the savings for 3 years. That can continue. If you move, say, if you stay within our service territory and you move, you can take that with you. So you can continue to save even at your new residence. However, if you were to go off our service, then obviously some lucky person on the wait list would be able to jump in and take advantage of that.
But we're not going to move. We're here.
Just in case there's any residentials, that want us to look in to see if it can be a
Yeah, so we visited earlier on this, and a couple of things I liked about it is one, it's not on our property, it's not on our buildings. Anytime you put solar or anything on roofs, you start to puncture roofs, you have problems. So I like that it's not on our property. I also like the idea of where you have a set rate, and we're all seeing everything is going up in rates right now across just about anything you buy. So I think there's a component of that, and then also it's green energy, and we bring that to the district. So there's 3 things I really liked about this program versus some of the other ones that we've looked at that involved actually putting the solar panels on our property, on our school roofs. So I love the program. I think it's a positive one, and the math makes sense too. And I'm sure that we get the appropriate time, we'll share the math with the boards. They see that piece. I thought it was pretty compelling.
Sure. Thank you, John.
And will all this be at the Prosperity location? Is that the plan, or?
Well, we have actually a few.
50
Yeah,
acres left.
I mean, the advantage of this is we can put it just about anywhere. As I said, the Prosperity site used about 11 acres for 2 megawatts. So, if we're looking at 5.7 megawatts, or just call it 6 megawatts here, we're looking for 30 to 40 acres. We can find just about any landowner that's maybe adjacent to one of our substations or a distribution line. That also generates a payment for a landowner here in, either Jasper, Newton County, or somewhere here in the area. So
Preferably in the district.
We can definitely have that.
I think we can probably find something.
So we have an action item later about this, so that should go pretty quickly. Are there any other questions? We're talking about a little over 11,000 blocks that we would be securing for 10 years. And they have the estimated savings. And one thing that I want everybody to know is that as rates increase over time, the solar rates are staying more constant. That's what we talked about. So a portion of our bill is not going to raise over the length of this.
And 11,000 blocks, that's what percentage roughly of our energy consumption? Is that 20%, 50%, 90%?
That's what they're, I don't know. I don't know how to
So
describe it.
that is going to be the majority of the usage. In fact, I think it's about 28 different locations and different meters
Sure.
that actually do show a benefit from jumping on the program. Whenever I was doing some of the calculations, there were some that have really, really good usage power whenever we compare demand and kilowatt hours used. There were some where we're actually going to see that the solar production, what you're paying for in blocks, is actually going to cover 100% of the energy of your building. Now, there are others that are about 65%, but I mean, it is going to be a majority of the usage.
So it depends on the facility.
Yes.
Good question.
Thank you. All right, stay tuned.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I think we've got construction update next. Aaron, I thought you were on vacation.
I am. Vacation Joplin schools, right?
Sure.
Thank you.
This is great.
Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, quick update, guys. Hallelujah, we're going vertical. So that is an awesome, awesome milestone for us. You know, a lot of times community drives by and, you know, we're digging in the ground, we're pouring footings, we're doing a lot on site, but they don't actually get to see construction going on. As of last week, we started going vertical. So precast installation, we actually finished that up on Friday. They were welding off and getting things all finalized early this week, but that is done. That's for the shelter. We have not started the gym itself. Area B, steel erection. We started steel erection on Monday this week. So all that steel you're going to be starting to see, and that's the east. Area B is the east side, what I'm calling the east side. Area A is furthest to the west. We're finishing the remainder of the parking lot and side road, the access road. We've started the curb and gutter. That actually should be completed as of tomorrow.
Wow.
So we've got a curb machine in. They were putting a lot of curb down every day. We had approximately 3,000 linear feet total of curb. We're not doing any of the parking lot area. We're doing the access road first. That being said, we're going to try to get our asphalt, our first layer of asphalt in around the loop road before it gets too cold and they shut down. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we can get that first layer down. Main Street entry, that's going to be poured in 2 separate pours. That's concrete. We're doing the south side first. That should be done this week. And then we've got to let it cure and then be able to drive on it before we open the other side and close that down. So probably best case scenario, I would say in 2.5 weeks, we're going to have the main entry completely done. Main Street turn lane, obviously that is already completed. That is the MoDOT turning lane. As you can see on the screen, we've got our shelter. Those braces are coming off shortly. It's the inside of the shelter. That's your loop road, your access road off Murphy. As you can see, curb and gutter is already installed. And that is your slab. We poured approximately 20,000 square feet. We've got another, I would say 20 to 25,000 square feet to pour on area A. And that is your right turn lane.
I don't know, Carrie, do you want
Yeah,
to welcome to the next slide?
We wanted to also let you know how the Kelsey Norman addition wrapped up in terms of what we spent. And so the last couple of weeks, we've been talking to the contractor and also our architect and everybody else involved. And on the board there, you can see, I talked to Chad today and we firmed these numbers up, and Shelley's done a great job with us, helping us find different things. But what we're proud to tell you is the project is $272,000 plus under budget from what we anticipated spending and what you approved to spend. The big areas where we made some improvements is one is, technology came in well under the allotted budget that was for it. It was $10,541 as compared to $47,000. The furniture came in at $82,609 as compared to $132,000 that was in there as well. The support expenses on the bond budget were not spent at all on this particular part of the project. At Dover Hill, we're going to have some expenses there, but at Kelsey, we didn't. So we were able to capture that $74,000 back. And so, and you look down the way all the way through, but you see the soft cost totaled down towards the bottom and the construction cost. The construction cost also, as we announced the day that we cut the ribbon at Kelsey Norman, was $12,885 under the construction budget. So for a grand total of $272,735.37. So we're real proud of that, and we're excited that money will be able to be utilized as necessary throughout the rest of the projects.
Awesome.
Great, thank you.
Good work.
So now that you're going vertical, does that mean you're done with the rocks?
We hope so. Actually, I was trying to get a change order put together for all the rock for this meeting. We didn't quite get that backup that we needed to put it finalized. So next board meeting for sure. We haven't hit rock in a week and a half though. So that's good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Happy vacation.
Yeah.
Okay, Shelley, we're to our usual health and dental update and financial statements.
Okay, health and dental, for the first 4 months, we spent about 2.5 million of our 7.4 million budget. There's just a couple of things I wanted to draw your attention to. Eric, if you'll go to the monthly activity summary, the third page, I think there. And this was the first month in our new plan year. And so the next page, you'll see that our admin fees were down quite a bit. They did give us, UMR did give us a rebate this month on some of our fees. And then we also received 104,000 of prescription rebate this month. So that helped the fees this month. But other than that, everything else is about the same. Any questions? Okay, and on financials, this month, really, when you compare everything to the prior months, it will go to like that condensed financial statement. If you're looking at the expenditures and you exclude on last year's bond, when you pull out the premium on the bond and the actual bond funds, and then considering the federal and state, the revenues are all pretty much the same when those are excluded, and expenditures are not out of line either when you consider the construction costs. So any questions on the financials?
Thank you. All right. Next up, public comments. There are none. We've got the consent agenda.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Derek. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that passes the regular agenda. Now we're back to the community solar pilot program.
Okay. So
Now we've heard it.
now we've heard it, and as you could hear, it's obvious that we would love for you to move forward on that and take a motion and
I make a motion to approve the Community Solar Pilot Program Participation Agreement.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Riley, second by Derek. All right, any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that motion passes. All right. Congratulations. Thank you, guys. Next up, resolution authorizing the offering for sale of general obligation refunding bonds of Joplin schools.
Yes, and Joe Kinder is with us tonight. So last month, there was some questions on maybe we would want to accelerate the 13 and the 16 to a taxable event. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe and let him talk about that.
Yeah, thanks for having me back here again. It's good to see you all. Happy early Thanksgiving. I hope you all enjoy your holiday. Just back to speak a little bit on, we talked a little bit about call provisions and what they mean last month, and the fact that you're within the 90-day window starting after December 1st on refunding the 2012. Again, that's a slam dunk. That's saving over $2.8 million. You're going to borrow that money around 1.5%, we think. And that has 13% present value savings, which what does that mean? That just takes your savings, reduces it back to what it would be worth at today's dollar values, and then divides it by the amount of par outstanding. It's a made up number, but the state used to require that you save 1.5% to do a refunding. So you're talking 8-9 times more than what the state requires, and you're within the window. And then after March 1st, you would need rates to come down in order to save as much money as you could if we do it anytime between now and March 1st. The other question that the board tasked me with was looking at any taxable refundings that may be working and kind of explaining what your options are there. Now, again, I made the recommendation last month. I'm going to stick with that while this is saving money and would be a nice deal, it's saving $2 million as a taxable refunding. I think there's two aspects that really lead us to wait until next year. It is only until next year One is that, I think that this is could be a more efficient refunding next year. I know we don't know where rates are going to go. So you could save potentially more money as long as rates don't move more than 0.75%, or maybe even more. But I think more importantly, as we look at your long-range plan, I think having another year under our belt, and Shelley and I met right before the meeting started to talk about this, I think there's a chance that we could set you up to be able to do something in 2025, 2026, something like that, of $40 million or more on a no tax increase basis. And the way that we would do that is optimize your cash flows. But I like the idea of going out and doing the savings now and having that opportunity to do it in the future. Now, the difference between doing it taxable today at $2 million of savings or tax exempt at this time next year, if rates don't move, that would save it about $3.2 million. So there is a $1.2 million opportunity cost to essentially eliminate what would be the only risk, would be the interest rate risk over that period. So you'd be giving up what could be potentially $1.2 million worth of savings. That's driven by two things. I think you've got a little PowerPoint here. Starts Joplin schools, but if we look at that second page, the first is the difference in rates. Of course, you are able to issue your bonds on a tax exempt basis, both for federal and state income tax purposes. So holders, investors in your bonds do not pay income tax, both federally and at the state level. And those would be represented by the two bars down lower, the red and the orange, which I'll talk about in a second. If you do the refunding of the 13 and 16, which would be eligible to be done as on a tax exempt basis next year at this time, you would have to do those as taxable. So those bonds would be sold off into the market, and investors would owe taxes, federal income tax and state income tax on those. And that is the darker bar, the blue bar at the top there. So you would be borrowing at a higher rate. That's the number one difference. And then we also have the idea of the roll, right? So you're borrowing right now out to 2033. That won't change likely. So right now, that is essentially an 11-year bond because we're almost in 2022. Next year, that would only be a 10-year bond, right? We would only be borrowing out 10 years. And so what we've done there down at the bottom is you see the red bar. That's where we would estimate rates would be at today, depending on what investors will pay on the day you're in the market. The orange bar below that is the adjustment for borrowing out one less year, essentially. So there is the idea that your bonds will get shorter. So not only is it that we could, rates could go up 0.75%, they could actually go up a little bit more than that because the bonds are going to be a little bit shorter. So the blue bar is what we've recreated on where rates would need to be next year. And again, that's around 0.75% higher. The second page there talks about the other difference, which is what we call negative arbitrage. Anytime we do a refinancing in advance of the call, you still owe all the principal and interest up to the call. So you will essentially have two bond issues outstanding for the same purpose. We've done these in the past when they were eligible to be done tax exempt, and it was just a matter of being able to take advantage of locking in savings now. Now, again, we're a year out, and there are some advantages to that, being that we are in a market that you could say there might be some inflation coming, and I would agree with that. But one of the things that we do is we look at what you're investing that vehicle in. Once you sell those bonds, we take those proceeds and put them in an investment vehicle versus what you're paying on the bonds that you just borrowed. And so the top bar there is the bond yields on the left. So that would be what you were paying on your bonds, which is a little over it's around 1.7%. And unfortunately, the column on the right is what you could invest that for over a 1 year period, which is about 0.17%. And the reason that is because we've got to invest that in very safe securities. So you have one of two options. You have what's called state and local government securities, which are set aside for you all to buy from the federal government. Currently, right now, I believe that window is still not open until we get some of our budget issues resolved at the federal level. So this would be the estimate of buying essentially federal treasuries. That's the only option you have that would mature inside of a year. So then you can see down there at the bottom where the negative arbitrage then comes in is what we have to actually do to purchase the escrow. So we have to actually produce enough proceeds in the beginning to pay the interest on the bonds as they are and then pay off the old bonds. And the gap there is what we call negative arbitrage. So the escrow would cost a little over $34.8 million. But we would, if we could earn what we could earn in the bond yield, so if we could earn the same rate that we're paying out, the escrow would only cost about 34.2 and change. So $600,000 difference there. So between the rate difference, which this doesn't always happen that way, but the lower rates on tax exempt would save you about $600,000. The negative arbitrage would save you about $600,000. So there's that 1.2 million of the 3.2 million that you could potentially have in the future. So it's, 33% loss in savings. And again, that there are some real interest rate risk there. So when I say interest rate risk that rates go up between now and then. So that is certainly something that could happen. But I think that next year you'll likely be in a position where you'll be wanting to kick in some additional cash again, like we're going to do with this refinancing, and potentially maybe optimize some cash flows by shortening some of that 13 and 16 debt up a little bit. And looked at a scenario today that if things continue on trend for next year, maybe could save as much as $3.8 million just by shortening that up.
So you toss a lot of numbers at us, and I've been
Yeah.
trying to follow as quickly as I can, but it would be interesting to understand if the interest rates do click up, let's say click up 1%, which what's going on with inflation right now that seems mildly low, even 1%, but it changes these numbers quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so what would be nice to see is, if you wait and it goes up 1%, what does that look like versus, hey, do something now? And I think the conversation with the board is to say, do you take that risk or do you not? And you move forward now thinking, hey, rates are going to go up, which my bet would be yes, they're going to go up, and percent might be calm compared to what's going on in the markets right now.
Well, 0.75% gets you to a break even between now and next year.
Okay.
So 1% is going to be slightly less than that. Now, again, depending on what happens with your assessed value, depending on what happens with your cash available next year, we're looking at a smaller borrowing potentially next year because we might have some cash available to kick in. So you've got lower cost of issuance, some of those things going on. So, depending on where you're at next year, again, we created a scenario where you might have 1.35% if everything comes due the way that we think it's going to come due. But we wouldn't be quite that aggressive in your structuring here a year out because we want to make sure that we're not strapping your debt service for cash. That would be something that we'd be waiting for next year to see. So we'd be a little bit more conservative now. So somewhere between 0.75% and 1.35%, depending on what happens between now and next year with your AV, your tax collections, all that good stuff, would be the break-even line for you. And I would tell you, we've seen interest rates in April of 2014. We saw them move 0.8% in a day. I will also say, though, that when the Fed made their announcement that they were going to taper asset purchases, which means basically essentially less demand in our market. So in other words, any greater supply could lead to higher interest rates. We actually saw rates tick down a little bit in our market in terms of lower yields for our municipal issuers. That's largely because our market tries to price in information as soon as they get it rather than wait for it to occur. We do have the Fed announcing that they're going to do some rate hikes as well on the overnight rate, which is something that has in the past impacted our interest rates. And we do have what we call ratios to Treasury. In other words, your ability to borrow versus what the federal government can are pretty tight right now. So in other words, you're actually in some places borrowing at less than the federal government, which they can print their own money. So certainly, there are risks in terms of interest rate going up, but that range is 0.75% to 1.35, depending on how aggressive you want us to be in the future with that tax exempt refinancing. Any movement above that obviously is going to result in less savings.
And if we moved on that today, what is the math on that?
I'm sorry.
As opposed to pushing it off a year?
That we would anticipate that you'd save about $2 million.
If we did it today.
If you did it today. And if rates didn't move, about $3.2 million. That's not including that time value factor that you saw there, the lower bar on the previous page of if, rates don't move and then we move along the scale and you're borrowing for one less year. So, again, I am happy to do whatever you want. You all pay me based on the size of the issue that you do. So if you add those two issues in, I'm happy to do that for you. But I do think that there is an advantage to waiting and having a purpose behind doing that. And I'm not sure that for you all that, around $200,000 a year in savings, that is something that it's not a rounding amount, but it is to a certain extent for you all in terms of what you can do on a no tax increase basis. So, being able to wait, have a better idea of what your long range plan is when your next no tax increase bond issue, when you'd like that to be, is going to be helpful. So having that that crystal ball on what the future looks like, be 1 year closer, is obviously going to help us with some data there. But I'm happy to do whatever you all would like to do and provide you the data you need. And we don't necessarily have to come back next month with rates either if you want some more data.
So what does that do for us in terms of the funds we can generate in a no tax bond issue down the road? Because we never want to have to go to our voters and ask for more taxes. And keeping them structured where they are as opposed to taking those savings now. What does that do in terms of what we can generate in that 2025 year or whenever? Should enrollment increase, population in Joplin increase, we find it necessary to build another school, keeping those options open.
So right now, if we did the refunding with this, everything all packaged in together, the additional savings that the 13 and 16 as a taxable refunding would provide would give you, again, trying to be conservative on what's going to happen with interest rates, would give you $4 or $5 million of additional capacity for your next bond issue for a no tax increase. So when we're talking $4 or $5 million with prices that we're hearing now, unless something happens and construction prices come back down, and those guys that just went know more than I do, but we're getting ready to bid a high school at Orchard Farm, which admittedly is St. Charles County, so a little bit higher prevailing wage costs, but they're anticipating somewhere around $350 a square foot. So you're talking, what's the math on that? 17,000 square feet of additional space if you needed it. So not going to come anywhere close to building you a building, not going to probably get you any gym space or anything like that, maybe just a few additional classrooms versus if next year you say, we would really love to target 2026, and we say, okay, your assessed value has grown a little bit, and we've got this current refunding to do, and we're going to shorten this down, kick in some cash, do some of the other things. I think, you're talking at maybe another $10 to $12 million of no tax increase capacity. And I think that when we talk, and I know from experience that when we talk about doing an issue on a taxable basis, we want to make sure that we have a real, something that really moves the needle. $4 or $5 million says, man, at $26, $27 million for a no tax increase bond issue, our next one, that really gets it done versus is 40 to 50 million, something we need. And again, that would be being able to move some of that debt up, really clear out some room for you and keep you on that path of every 5 to 7 years being able to do a no tax increase bond issue. So I like having one more year in the bank. But that's 15 years of experience and talking. If I knew what rates we're going to do next year, I'd buy us all yachts and we could sail the 7 seas, but.
All right, so is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we vote to sell on 2012 and vote to wait on 13 and 2016.
Second.
All right. So a motion by Dr. Joseph, second by Riley. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thanks, folks. We're going to go through the rating process. So you all are very highly rated, and just like a credit rating on your home mortgage. And Shelley will get to get grilled for about 45 minutes to an hour. She'll do a great job. And we'll have a great result for you. Like I said, borrowing money about 1.5%, and you're good to go.
All right. Appreciate it.
Good to see y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Next up, change order for Dover Hill. We pulled that one out.
Yep.
Yep. So
Paperberry.
proposal to approve the vapor barrier change.
Okay, we have a change order at Dover Hill. It's kind of a complex because there's about 3 things going on here, but these 2 guys who you know well will explain it to you.
Okay.
Would you like me to start?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the first one on the change orders vapor slab under the vapor barrier. For the vapor barrier and the concrete itself, we kind of had a belt and suspenders approach. We have some admixture in the concrete, which helps to keep a lot of vapor or humidity from coming up through the slab. In reviewing with not only Dave here, but Crossland as well, there was an opportunity to look at a change in the specifications, considering we're kind of on top of a hill and moisture isn't really coming up. We're not close to the water table. So we looked at this as an opportunity to save the district some money without changing the performance of the specifications. So that one was something that we felt like was a good thing to do for the district. The second one, and I don't know if you have anything you want to add on that one, or did that explain it well?
No, I just, we compared products with what was originally specified and felt really confident that we weren't changing out anything that was going to cause any issues for the future.
The second one, when we specified all the exterior doors, we specified a kind of a standard storefront entry. And then as we started working with the manufacturer and the door hardware supplier, knowing all of the nuances with some of the district standard hardware for security, access control, the manufacturer kind of identified a conflict with some of the smaller style doors. So we felt it was better for the life of the project to increase the thickness of the style, which increased a little bit of the steel costs associated with these doors, but ultimately will provide a better door system for the district. The last thing on the list is for the operable partitions. We have some operable partitions in the media center as well as the living room. Those are staying the same, but we are looking at the operable partitions in the classroom spaces and really wanted to look at an opportunity for making the adjustment to better suit the teachers and the students being able to operate these doors. Previously, we had them at around 10 feet tall, and looking at them lining up with some of the adjacent windows and doors, moving them down to about 7'2" would give them greater flexibility and give them a lot of ease in operating those doors. With that, we had to add a little bit of steel, and that represents the majority of those costs. But ultimately, these operable partitions being smaller and more manageable will allow them to be used easier by the students and teachers. Anything to add on that one?
No.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the changes as submitted.
I'll second.
Motion by John, second by Derek. Discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Next up, design services, furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
So as you know, we talked earlier about the fact that at Kelsey Norman that we had, saved some money on furniture, and we had really worked hard to do that. And we appreciate the help at the school as well. We developed a committee and we put an RFQ out to select a designer with an option for us to use that designer on certain packages at the Dover Hill site. Obviously a classroom package for all the classrooms and teacher workrooms, for instance, and then also the media library center. And so we put a committee together. Dave and I vetted all the submissions. There were 5 submissions: Freedom, Interiors, Scott Rice, SSI, School Specialty, and K-12 all submitted proposals. Then our committee got together and looked at the finalists and to see who would be serve the district the best. And the committee chose Freedom Interiors, which was the group that did most of the Kelsey Norman, not all, but most of the Kelsey Norman furniture. The principal, the new principal at Dover, which is Brett Engel, was very high on them as well. The vast majority of the committee members ranked them number 1 of the 2. And what we'd like to do is enter into an agreement with them to do the classrooms and the media center, and then as needed. We've already talked to them about the potential of hard bidding, possibly the office spaces, as well as the cafeteria versus selecting them off co-op. But the good thing about this process is that we can price point and quality check different products off the co-op that's already been bid, and we can meet or exceed going under the budget, what we would like to, which John had brought up earlier. And there's a $900,000 plus number in there for furniture and fixtures, and we would like to really get that number down and utilize this process to help us really beat the budget there and get good products like we did at Kelsey.
Thank you. Anybody want to make a motion?
So moved.
All right. Motion to
Second.
approve by Derek, second by John. Discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Supply lock cylinders for new construction.
I'll let Dave talk to you about this. He's way in the weeds more than I am on this.
I did locksmithing for the district for a few years, so I have a little bit of background in this. The process that we do as we're bringing on the new construction, the keying system that we have set up is geographically exclusive to Joplin schools. And so for us to keep the security of the system as well as the protocols with ordering, we work with the hardware vendor who is supplying, but we supply the cylinders and the keying, and we key all of those cylinders within our district. We have a district locksmith who does that for us. And so we are purchasing those outside of the construction contract. And so we're bringing that to you tonight to accept the bid from Smallwood Locksmith for a total of $18,628.
Motion to approve. I'll second that motion.
Motion by Dr. Joseph, second by Derek. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Next up, recommendation for general contractor services for the remodel.
Michael, if you want to come on up, please. Michael Wishmeyer helped us, as well as Matt Hyatt, too. He's coming up to talk about the Jung press box. As you know, we bid the press box several months ago, and there were some irregularities in the bids that we accepted, and we decided to do it again and to re-examine the project itself and look at different things, as well as give other contractors the ability to bid on the project. And I'll let Michael take it from here, as well as Crossland is here, who, go ahead, Dan.
As Carrie mentioned, we sent Jung back out to bid. There were some changes that we made after going through the first set of documents, but for the most part, most of it stayed the same. I think when we came to the board last time, we had hoped that the construction environment would be a little better, but I think we're still seeing, from these numbers, we're still seeing that there might be material lead time issues, so the numbers appeared to come in just a little bit higher than normal. We're really glad we had a couple bidders. Thank you, Crossland, for bidding on this one. Dave, do you have any?
Well, we're seeking to bring to you tonight a recommendation to take the base bid plus the alternate there, as you see there, for the total of $771,000, and then the design work. We're excited for this project and ready to move forward. We also want to point out that with the chairlift being added, that press box will be ADA compliant for acceptable access for that. And so that will be a really good thing to have in place should we have anyone who would need that. Original bid had also taken into account, when we did this back earlier this year, some things that we've already taken care of. So we were able to take some of those things out that are already in place that will help with the overall project.
That's a good point about the chairlift. So as we were redesigning this press box addition, the city of Joplin and our code enforcement research pointed out that we had to have accessibility to that press box. So this, if you weren't doing an addition, this would still be a requirement somehow, like as a capital outlay issue. So instead of coming out of capital outlay, maybe it's just coming out of this.
So can someone refresh me on this? If I remember this one, this was a lot of private donations was helping with this. Does anyone know the math offhand as far as what's private, what are we covering from a school district? And we bid this before. There's a little bit of a gap, right?
Yes. Carrie, you had that spreadsheet. Do you have that handy?
Yeah, I'm popping it up here, and Shelley has it as well.
When we were previewing this earlier, we were going to be shy of about 127,000. taking out the chairlift and then considering the rest of the project.
Right.
Yeah. I think just total shortfall, including the elevator, is like 296. You pull out the elevator, and then it's just 144,000.
Okay, so a little bit more than I thought.
But then
That
if we,
includes the design work, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, it does. And if we go with the sponsorship of Dorothy also has like on her sponsorship, she puts some over to athletics, a capital outlay, and that is like 68,000 that we have that we could put against this. So that drops it down to 76, a little over 76,000.
And in 5 years, when we meet our first pledge requirements on the video board and other advertisements, we'll go out for renewal of those. So this is an investment, the way I see it, over time for the district, because it's an income generator as well as an enhancement to all of our stakeholders, including our students. So I'm very confident that in a short amount of time, we will recoup any of our overages right now that are not met with pledges. The vast majority of this is still met with pledge.
Okay, thank you.
I would make a motion, we approve Crosslink Construction as the general contractor for the construction and remodel of Junk Field press box.
Second.
All right, there's a motion by Brent, second by Riley. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
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 Yes, that motion passes. All right, thank you, guys. All right, next up, expansion of early childhood education center.
You'll be back.
We know how to do that.
And then for everybody who's just foreknowledge after this one. Yeah. I'm watching the
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the board about a proposed expansion of our early childhood prevention program. Have with me tonight, Ashley Horton is our early childhood professions instructor. Dr. Elsie Morris is our special services coordinator. And Sandra Camp has worked very closely with us on this too from a perspective of district needs. We're in our third year of our early childhood professions program, and it's a junior and senior level block program. The students come to us for half a day. They do clinical rotations a lot like many of our other programs at our early childhood center, at daycares, at Head Starts, a lot of different locations. The gist of the proposal is to expand our program and actually move Ashley Horton and her senior level students to the early childhood center, providing a classroom for them, and they would operate a second daycare for the district. In that process, we would hire a second instructor that would have our junior level students at Franklin Tech, and they would continue with the rotations with such as Head Start and some of the others. So I'm gonna hand it off here pretty quick. Part of the process of getting a program expanded with DESE through career and technical education is writing a proposal to do that. And Dr. Morris has kind of taken that lead, and I'm going to let her share a little bit of what she did and some of the information that she found as she put that together. But we have received approval from DESE to expand the program, which down the line gives us access to some funding, grants and things of that nature. So I'll hand it over to Dr. Morris, and she can talk a little bit about that process.
Good evening. It was 4 short years ago we were here to just propose this program to start with. We never expected it to grow this fast in such amazing ways. So I'm really excited to present this tonight. As Mr. Rockers said, we did decide that we needed to have an expansion, and with the national push for early childhood education, universally, now is the time to do this. Once we realized that there was such a strong need, and Minnie St. Clair, who could not be with us tonight, is the director at the Joplin Early Childhood Center, has graciously found space in her building, and she is so excited. Mrs. Horton's students are often in the building, and they do their clinicals there. So this is just, all of a sudden, we're putting all of the pieces that we have to offer here at Joplin all together to service a huge need that we have here in the community. So we're really excited about that. So I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm going to let Ashley speak. We've got an awesome video, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions if you have any questions for us.
Okay. Would now be a great time for the video? Yeah. Let's start with the video first.
Early Childhood Professions is a training program for high school students who are interested in the education field. We focus primarily on ages 4 through 8 years old, with a special emphasis in ages 3 to 5.
This is one of my favorite classes because starting at the beginning of the year, I didn't know if I wanted to pursue my interest in early childhood, but the things that I've been learning and stuff I've been going over has helped me like grow my passion for early childhood.
One of our goals is to expand early childhood professions to where we have a lab classroom in which the high school students will be able to practice all of the aspects of being a teacher, such as assessing students, lesson planning, implementing those lessons and activities.
I like the hands-on a little bit better because it's something, like it's one thing to learn it and then to be able to be in there and like watching them learn new things and helping them.
Those are all for high school students, direct and hands-on training, and very specific aspects of how teaching applies to younger ages in early childhood. And it also would be great for the youngest students as well.
I think it would be awesome to expand our class to like an actual classroom here because I'd be able to apply my learning from my regular class into a classroom here and be able to use some of those techniques and skills that we've been learning about in class.
All right. You have a slide for you, slides as well. While those are being pulled up, just to kind of back off what Dr. Morris has said, it's been so neat to watch this program grow from the beginning. It's neat to be here just even in the last few years and to see how much it's grown and all the interest and support that it's had as well.
One of the things that we did to prepare for this is to survey not just the Joplin school students that will be incoming or juniors next year. We also surveyed all of our sending school sophomores, and we had over 605 respondents. Of that, almost 48% of those expressed an interest or a strong interest in enrolling in the program. So we're looking at about 100 students that had acknowledged that they want to be in the program next year. We don't have room for 100. We've got room for 20, but it's going to be very selective, and this is a great way for us to grow our own. For example, last year, every single student that Ashley had in her senior class is working in early childhood in some form or fashion. We have one serving as an apprentice right now. We have 4, I believe, that are actually working in early childhood facilities in the Joplin metro area, and all of the others are attending college, going to college to become an early childhood teacher. So we know that this is a valuable resource, and we are so excited.
All right.
How many students are in the program currently?
Currently, there's 27, and that's a mix of juniors and seniors.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a question maybe for Dr. Moss, but we're using students, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but we're using students for the daycare services, is that correct?
For childcare.
The childcare services, okay. And that's making, it looks to me like us, per student, quite a bit of money. What is it here?
$2,800 per,
$3,540 per year for 20 additional students, it looks like.
yes,
This
I'm
is the
sorry,
way
I was
reading
looking
it.
up above.
So in exchange for the high school credit, the students are doing this work for an additional 20 children, right? And do we add any full-time employees for this?
Yes, as Dave suggested, we will need to add a teacher.
And what's the cost of that?
Well, the cost of an instructor is probably going to be looking at with benefits in that 50,000 or in that neighborhood.
Because as I look through this, I'm looking at, I guess, the financial impact, the fiscal note on this. I don't know if I'm missing that in this in terms of, I'm seeing how we're paying for it with a grant, tuition, and then the tuition for the daycare as well.
Yes.
So that'll pay for everything.
We anticipate that it could. We don't have a crystal ball exactly what those grants would yield, but we think if there's a fiscal note to the negative, it'll be minimal.
And so, and I guess for the student aspect, out of my own curiosity, what do the students get at the end of this program? Is there a certification? Is it experience that they can walk into a collegiate setting and say, I've done this, this, and this. I'm sure that I want to proceed with my education in early childhood development?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to the second to last slide here, we have our certificates and opportunities that we currently offer. The first one, we do offer dual credit through Crowder. It's 11 dual credit hours towards their early childhood / paraprofessional associate's degree. We've also talked with Missouri State University in Springfield, and those credits would be able to transfer. And we've also looked at a partnership where they can use those same dual credit hours towards 5 different early childhood degrees towards a 4-year degree. They also receive an early childhood education certificate through the National Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. We offer pediatric first aid and CPR as well. We also do studying and we practice for the paraprofessional certification as well.
All of her students passed that last year.
And the other thing is optional that we work towards is a child development associate credential, which has really been beneficial for those who are interested in a Head Start position as well.
Some of the certifications, the challenge has been getting enough hours for the students. And that's one thing that this is going to help us in that regard, so that they can get the work hours required to be able to be certified.
So the Crowder credit, is that automatically, I know sometimes with our dual credit students, there's a cost associated with that for the students. Is that automatically matriculated to Crowder College, or is that something that they have to apply later on to do?
I'm gonna defer to her because all of our programs are a little different.
Okay, can you repeat your question?
So when we have conversations about credits and any additional costs to students, typically I ask the question, is there anything that we're doing to make sure that the students have equitable access to that?
Mm-hmm.
And so my question is, sometimes we have costs associated with dual credit courses.
Yes.
And are there costs associated with these, or is it a situation where in the case of other Franklin Tech programs, where the credit is not automatically matriculated to a university or a community college as much as it is something they could apply later on to receive credit from the institution by the student? The student would apply for it instead of it automatically being counted as a collegiate credit.
It is an optional credit. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question correctly, but they get, it is $65 a credit hour, but they can choose. But for those who are interested in, and cost is a concern, we have other ways to help support with that as well. I never want cost to be an issue in that regard.
Okay. And some of the other programs that we have, we've been working with Crowder on some programs that is going to give credit for prior experience. And so students have been in, I'll use automotive as an example. They've been in our automotive program for 2 years and they passed the ASE examinations. they get anywhere from 12 to 18 hours in specific coursework that they won't have to take. And they just pay a per course fee for those. It's like $25 per course that may be a 3-credit course. So it comes to us in a lot of different forms and fashions as far as dual credit, articulated credit, and those kind of things.
And with our partnership that we're working towards with MSU as well, any students who are on free and reduced lunches, the cost is taken care of through a scholarship through them as well.
And how many students do you have now?
Currently, we have 27.
Okay, how many young students?
We don't have that quite yet, but we did.
Mindy did a survey, just a very impromptu survey, district-wide last week, and she had 23 respondents that have expressed interest in sending their child starting in January. They're very interested in having their children in these programs.
So 23 out of 20?
Yes.
Okay.
I will say, this is not that this is my deal here, but I do know that this is a benefit to our employees.
Yes.
Because they do have childcare and there has a wait list. And I know with several of my new hires, this has been a question that they've asked. And so not only is it a benefit to, I think, our students but to our staff as well.
And to the community.
And yes, Joplin won in 2018 did some research of our community, and nationally, 48% of preschool students were involved in preschool. Throughout Missouri, only 45%, but in 2018, only 30% of our 3 to 4 year olds were in an early childhood setting. I think Dr. Mwangi shared with me is that 42% of this last year.
Current setting kindergarten, 42% of our current population, no preschool, no daycare, nothing. Currently setting in kindergarten.
I think that's showing our
Checking
need
a
in
number of
Joplin.
different boxes.
Yes,
from
it is.
Sounds like
readiness to student education to employee benefit.
Absolutely.
To growing your own, to creating a
Yes.
great
Right.
community.
Yes.
And we are approved, if the board approves this, for a $10,000 startup grant for the classroom through DESE, through a recruitment grant.
I would just say that the pairs are a high need area for hires too, where we have difficult time recruiting. And so I heard the grow your own down there. So that is a benefit to us as well, as we try to funnel and make a funnel for new employees that would come more across the district as well.
And another great thing is Ashley having the kids do the para test, because sometimes we have people apply for our para positions, but they don't have the 60 college hours. They go take the test and they miss it by 2 or 3 points. They can't take it again for another month. And then by then they've gone on their way. But for them to already have passed that in high school is
Yes, and
a great thing.
it was really neat because Megan Klosterman came in and spoke to my students and brought a para and a couple special education teachers as well. So there was a lot of interest in that after that presentation.
I'd make a motion to approve the expansion of the early childhood.
I'll second.
Motion by Derek, second by Brent. Any more discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Approved.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I
Congratulations.
appreciate it.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy
Take a 5-minute
Thanksgiving.
break and then we'll come back to the next item.
Sorry. Nice work.
Thank you for your help too.
Hey, you have done the heavy lifting, my friend.
Through those.
I did. I did.
You didn't give me much of a chance to comment.
I had it. I just had to.
Sorry, I just
Wish you had your.
cutting the chase.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that.
I hope that was okay.
And I'm just- All right, welcome back. Next item on our agenda is consideration of Missouri Southern State University MOSO CAPS Memorandum of Understanding. All right.
Sorry, we're working on climate control.
It's not an incentive to get out faster.
Yeah, we're gonna freeze.
Get out before
freeze
you
it
make
out.
All right. Dr. Moss, this one's up for you.
Okay, and I may need Sarah every once in a while to chime in, or I see Brad Hodson is in the audience, and this is MOSO CAP, so we may point to you for some things. But we've had a board meeting and also a work session on this topic, and then I went to appreciate Brent last night. I think I got that around 11 o'clock. You sent a list of questions and concerns to address. And so we did respond to that this afternoon. And throughout the day, it looked like you had sent that to Jeff and Sherrick and myself. So I'm not sure if you've had time to review that or if the rest of the board saw that information. I can recap that since we last met, Webb City and Carl Junction have officially approved the CAPS program. There's been conversations with Macaulay as well as College Heights. They're looking at the program. And then I learned in talking with another district close by, which I named that in your packet, that they are also seriously considering the program. So the program is already getting interest and growing. And as we know, our allotment of program costs, the more schools and individuals that join in, then that price will go down. It's currently sitting at $147,300 and some change. So let's see, what else is new since then? And Brent, if you want to chime in on some of the things that you learned today. There's 3 dual credit strands: health sciences, human services, business, and entrepreneurship. There was some misconception about the timing of the program. It is a 2-hour time period that our students will actually be on the Missouri Southern campus, but they're doing work such that they will attain the 3 credit hours. That gets them back in time to start 3rd hour, and I believe in some of our communications, it was 4th hour. So I wanted to make that clarification. I don't have the PM start time. I don't think I ever heard back from Missouri Southern on the PM start time. But we would assume that would then allow them the 2-hour block at that time as well. I know there was some concern about missing breakfast and or lunch with that schedule, and you are right. It would make it problematic for them to get those meals. We could, if we knew ahead of time and had commitment from the students, we could always prepare a sack lunch for our PM students. Unfortunately, at the high school level, they don't always eat with us anyway, but I wanted to mention that.
Dr. Lund, if I could, just on that topic right there,
Yes.
the 2 hours. So the correspondence I got back today from Missouri Southern, she indicated that we had agreed to a 2.5 hour
They have
program.
that option. Then I think for Webb City and Carl, they were going to stay the 2.5, but we can still offer the course to our kids with the 2 hours.
So we get the same benefit as area students who take it for 2.5 hours, and we only have to take it for 2 hours.
And as Brad explained, they would have some makeup work and some things that they would do, kind of like a 0 hour now. But if it's a barrier with them getting able to access 3rd hour or the 7th hour period, then they're willing to work with us on that. So I wanted to go back to some of those questions. We have, since we met, looked at how we assign our practical art, our elective credit. This could certainly both qualify for that. We've also spoken with Neosho with their CAPS program, and with Crowder, what they did, I believe in year 2, is they really analyzed those course syllabus at the college level and then looked for how to align and add some material in there that then they could do embedded credit for English and science. So the health services strand could possibly garner a science credit at the high school. And then the other two, Neosho had some success then with offering the English credit. So that's a possibility. The credit hour cost is $50. And as we heard with our expansion of early childhood, they pay $65 for that. To Crowder, this would be $50 at MSSU. And we have those same avenues when we have students in our current dual credit opportunities at the high school if payment is a barrier. We used to have an economic development grant that helped us pay that tuition cost. And that's vetted through the counselor's office, if I'm not mistaken. But since then, the board has allotted funds in the budget each year. And we have had those pretty much go unused. We've never tapped out our annual allotment for dual credit reimbursement. So we do have ways of removing that barrier if those tuition costs are a barrier and students qualify for free and reduced lunch and so forth. I think that was another one of your
I did
questions.
see one of the responses, maybe it was from Brad, about having sponsors from
Yes.
each of the strands, community sponsors that would help cover the cost for the tuition piece. I mean, it's not final, but it was something that they were looking towards.
Yes, so that might help as well. We did hear from the Equal Opportunity Schools presentation back, I think it was maybe this summer or even last spring, that right now we are underrepresented at Joplin High School in terms of students accessing our dual credit and our AP courses. So while there has been concern about programs competing, I still think that we are underrepresented in students taking advantage of these kind of opportunities.
So, Dr. Moss, just so I'm correct in what you just said, because I haven't had luxury of seeing Brent's questions, and I haven't seen them like Jack and Sherrick had. So I'm just trying to dive into it a little bit more. And I do think lunch question is something that's important. I think lunch and meals for students is a very important part of their day. But in addition to that, just like the program before, both these programs would boost dual credit enrollment, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that would help us with our dual credit student population that is underrepresented.
I think it could.
Credit courses.
The testimonials that we've heard is that this taps a different type of student and maybe other programs that we have. And so it could encourage more students into the credit opportunities and the exposure to a four-year university, which not all of our students have. So that's a benefit of being on that campus. I also heard when we were listening to the early childhood presentation, one student was talking about how this allowed her to apply her knowledge in a real world setting and how that had solidified her career choice. And this program is somewhat unique to our other programs, although there are apprenticeships and internships and lab opportunities through FTC. The way this is structured is they're going to our industry partners and working alongside Suzanne Hull and the professors at MSSU to design those project-based learning opportunities so that they're applying what they're learning in class in the industry setting. And if, as we know, we're struggling with workforce development and struggling with fulfilling jobs in our own community. So if this solidifies those choices and gives them a relationship with an employer ahead of time, I think it not only benefits our students and our district, but also our greater community, which is why I think Chamber of Commerce and industry partners are very interested in this.
I think as the board knows, I'm very much in support of this program. And I have benefited from receiving Brent's questions, and for the benefit of the rest of the board, they were excellent questions and questions that ought to be asked before we consider what types of investments we might make in this type of opportunity for our students, for neighboring districts, for our constituents that we hope to work with. I just see this as a great opportunity. And those doggone rules, those sunshine rules, prevent us from really communicating with one another these questions that ought to be answered, in a better way. And so that's kind of what we have right now in an open board meeting, the opportunity to kind of discuss Brent's questions and why he has reservations about the program, and any other board member who has reservations, which I reasonably understood once I saw them. My failing in this has been that I have had a lot of confidence in the people who are presenting the program to us. There were questions raised as to whether or not we had told our students to determine the interest in the program. I have no idea if that has occurred, and perhaps it has not.
It has not.
And so there's understanding of a reservation there. When I heard the original presentations regarding this issue, I heard things like these things grow organically. Kids see an opportunity. The first years are a little fledgling. And I can understand how some of our board members may be deterred or not very excited about it. What I am looking forward to is seeing college-bound students have an opportunity to get college credits at an extremely discounted rate. As somebody who has 2 students in college right now, I can tell you that college credits are very expensive to come by, and any type of assistance that we can provide our college-bound students is a benefit to our district. We also have an opportunity to partner with neighboring districts who have already committed themselves. We see Webb City, Pearl Junction, perhaps we know show, I'm not sure what they said.
They have their own through Crowder.
Pardon me. So there are others, though, that are looking to join, and as more join, maybe our percentage share can be reduced. And so I understand the concerns with our commitment to the program. But I think it's an interesting opportunity and a uniqueness, since I've been on this board, to have a collaborative effort between Missouri Southern, who itself is willing to commit funds to this project, and our neighboring school districts for the benefit of our students, and to work with people in our area in actual hands-on apprenticeships, if you will. It's just rare and something to me to be celebrated. And so for that, I am very much in support of it. For those of us who have questions, I get it, and I hope that we will address those here, or at least take the opportunity before a vote to decide whether or not you can go forward. Have you met your due diligence? Are you comfortable with where you sit before you vote on this? And I would, again, ask our board to talk about that in an open discussion here. I mean, do you know how you're going to vote? Or do you like the information you need to vote on this matter, on those subjects?
Yeah, so a couple of comments I would have to just share data facts is when you look at the investment, which we're being asked to basically invest $150,000 for the next 3 years. When you look at a cost per credit hour at MSSU, it's $248 per credit hour. If you just did the math, that's $3,720 a semester. For this same amount of money, if Joplin so chose to just spend money, we could send 40 kids for a full semester for the next 3 years to MSSU. That's the math. This program, for 3 credit hours, it's $832, which is over 3.5 times what it is if you're just enrolled at MSSU. And I look at this and I say, hey, part of our responsibility is being fiduciarily responsible. And you got to separate the good from the great. And when I see that piece of math that says, geez, Joplin School District could send 40 people full-time for a semester for the next 3 years versus this program, I really question why we would try to invest dollars that way. I'd rather just create the scholarships if we're looking to spend $150,000 and send 40 kids full-time. Because the only other issue I'd have with this is if it's 59 students, it's $24.98 per student. It could be one for 147,000 because there is no correlation. Is it one? Is it 59? If you can even get past the difference, and we could send 40 kids full-time for the same amount of money. If I could get past that, which I can't personally, then I come back and say, hey, risk and reward. If there's one kid versus 59, and if there's one, by the way, I don't think we look really good in the eyes of the community to say, we just spent $147,000 to send one kid. But that's where I get stuck on this one, because the math in my mind, it just doesn't equal results. I'd rather send 40 kids if we're looking to do that. Send 40 kids then, give them an opportunity. Spend 150,000, send 40 kids, full-time.
The one reservation I have, hold on just a second, Riley. And I don't remember who it was when we discussed this. Ms. Toft, when asked if we had the money, and it was, we find it. And so I have an issue with that, and then finding money, and I know we can pull money from different things, but I have an issue with that as well, being responsible.
Shelley, I guess I would ask the question, where is the money going to come from for this particular project?
Well, this one probably would come from ESSER funds. We have ESSER, I mean, it would be repurposed from, we're getting ESSER money in that we're putting towards salaries, which frees up some of our other budget money that could go over to this.
So more or less ESSER money, not money from within the district, but mainly from the federal government. And John, I'm just questioning, you said $844, is that right?
For
you said 800 something.
Yeah, so if you took the 2498, which is what the district is obligated per person, if 59 signed up, and it's the 3 credit hours, it equals $832 of credit. If I just enrolled at MSSU full-time, it's $248 credit.
That's per credit. So if you take it times 3, it's $744. So it's really closer to $100 difference there. It's not necessarily.
No. Don't we have students paying a little bit on that also?
The students are paying $150 and then $300 for annual. That's out of them.
It's per $744 is for a 3-hour class, and then $844 is for a 3-hour class, or $832 for a 3-hour class.
My understanding was a student would enroll in a class in this muscle caps, and it would cost us $24.98 for 3 credits.
Per semester.
Huh? That's the math.
Is that correct?
I was talking credit
It's
hours.
3 per semester. I've got it written on the.
Per semester on credit hours. Okay.
Yeah, so we took the $24.98 divided by 3, gets you $832.
And Dr. Hodson, where's the additional money going? Can you speak to that somewhat?
Certainly. So students do earn 6 credit hours per year. They earn 3 per semester for one cost of $2,498. So they get 6 credit hours for that, 3 in the fall and 3 in the spring. The other costs, and we provided a detailed budget to all 3 partner school districts.
And it's in their packet.
Oh, okay, good. So you can see.
A page or 2, we'll get to that.
This one's 6 is $416 per credit hour.
Well, it says
We have.
most of caps info. There's 3 documents attached to it. So it says info, not that one.
Scroll past that, it should be the next page. There we go.
So this budget has been reviewed by the superintendents of the 3 districts on multiple occasions to get it to a point that everyone was comfortable with the cost per student, and we've been happy to work collaboratively on that. There are costs that Missouri Southern is covering in this inaugural year that will need to be covered by the collaborative in subsequent years, such as the MOSO CAPS director, the licensing fees for our association with the national organization. And then, for example, one example of value engineering, we did have 3 strand coordinators, but in the first year to get the cost per student down, Suzanne Hull agreed to serve simultaneously as director and also a strand coordinator. So that got us down to 2 strength coordinators. Our own students pay a fee to use our health sciences simulation labs, and so for the students coming in from MOSO CAPS, we felt it was appropriate that they pay the same fee. You're familiar with replacement costs, and that's where that money would go. There are experiences that will require a background check for the student. This first year, we're going to be flying the plane while we're building it, and so we don't anticipate we will need all 150 students to have the background check, but we budgeted for it, not knowing if it was 40 of the 150 or 145 of the 150. We'll learn that as we learn more in the first year. We do have software that we have to license for the program, and then we do have to pay Missouri Southern faculty to teach the dual credit. Now, again, the cost of the student we are trying to mitigate by asking corporate partners to become strand sponsors to pay 100% of the dual credit tuition for the student, their books, their supplies. So, for example, I just had a quick conversation with Jordan from Liberty, and they've received our proposal. They're making a decision. They're going to be an investor, she said. I don't want to get too far out in front of them, but that's the kind of investment we're looking for so that there's no cost to the students participating. And then, again, we don't know what we need. I think $15,000 is pretty modest for operating expenses. And then again, a contingency fund. Next year's budget, year 2's budget, will look vastly different. We'll have a year's experience under our belt. We can fine tune this and even get it down to even closer to what is actual. No one is making money off this program from an operating perspective. We're trying to cover our costs in year 1, be responsible, and year 2 will tweak, year 3 will tweak, and get it closer to the actual over time.
Dr. Moss, what's the annual cost for the Project Lead the Way program?
That was documents that were shared at our work session. I don't have those with me right now, Riley. Dave, can you help us out with that question?
I'm trying to think, because that's kind of a hybrid program between us and the high school.
We have some salaries and other costs associated. How many instructors are we paying through Project Lead the Way at the high school? And I know we have some at the middle school, but I think what you're referring to is just high school, right, Riley?
Sure. I guess, the high school. We'll say the high school.
5 or 6?
Probably about, a little more than about 1 FTE for each program. Maybe about 7 hours of instruction in each engineering and environmental science.
So 2 salaries, and depending on where they fall on the salary schedule with benefits, Shelley, what would you say is our average cost?
Probably 55 to 60.
Per person.
Mhm.
So 60,000.
So that would be 120. And then we have some program costs associated.
So we have 31 students in that. That's a cost of $3,870 per student. $870 per student every year. And I think Project Lead the Way is a great program, and I think that Franklin Tech does a good job, but I struggle personally. I think it's disingenuous for us as a board to say that we're spending too much money per student. And I had somebody come up to me and ask me, they said, this question was asked, they said, we think Missouri Southern is going to make money off of this. We think Missouri Southern is trying to boost their personal numbers based on this. And I would say that if this is the one thing standing between Missouri Southern being successful or not being successful, I would say that this is probably not it overall. If they're hinging everything on this program, it's probably not in the cards for Missouri Southern, would be my guess. Because that was a conversation that somebody said to me. But my point is, I don't think anybody's making a lot of money here. But for me, when I got on the board, I said I wanted to be somebody that was for all students, because that's the primary reason why we're here. If we didn't have students, we wouldn't need to be elected, and you wouldn't need a job, and neither would anybody else really in this room. And for students, if we're interested in doing the most for the most amount of kids, this really is not a ton of money. It's $149,000. And like I said, And if you look at it per student involved, we're sitting very similar. So I'm struggling, I guess personally, I'm struggling to see when we have other programs that we're funding now versus this, what our hangup is. And I know Sherrick asked us to speak candidly, and that's my big question to everybody here. What's the difference?
Well, if I may, Brian, I'm with you, obviously, as you know, I support this concept for the reasons I've stated. I completely respect what John said. It's whenever you look at it, it's difficult to get behind the logic of those numbers. And it's difficult for that project lead the way or anything else. But, we were talking about educating kids who are not college-age students yet. These are different opportunities for kids in our district than they have now. And my hope, my belief is that most of the tasks can grow into something that it is not going to begin as. And, if you're developing new partnerships in our community, there are partners in our community that I think will eventually fund this entire program if it looks successful on its face to where our contributions can become nil or eliminated. I don't know where that would happen or if it will happen. I have no idea. My concern is when we say no to opportunities like this is, what is good? Are we missing a greater good? And again, each board member is going to have to answer that for themselves. And I get that. So before we take a vote, I just want to know if everybody is comfortable that they know what they need to know to vote, or if I should make a motion to table it so that we can discuss it further. Because if we vote on it, I'm perfectly satisfied that we vote and make a decision if we feel as though we're fully informed. If we're not, so be it. Again, this is not just a college classroom opportunity. This is working program. This is, when I'm in college, I didn't have the opportunity to go work with a professional and sit next to them.
Sure, I just want to make one point. There's some statistics that I looked at. 80% of college students change their majors. What does that tell you? 61% of college grads would change their majors if they could go back. 25% of all degree holders would change their majors to pursue different passions. This has given us the opportunity. I understand there's costs, and I know what it's costing, but we're here for, just like Riley said, for these students. And what better opportunity to go in a mentorship and find out what they really are interested in, so later in life they succeed. I can't tell you how many students that I see go through college and flounder around because they never really found what they were looking for. And this gives these students, our students, the opportunity to pursue different areas and find their passion. Not, you talk about what it's going to cost us. What's it going to cost a student if he goes to college 4 years and finds out, well, I didn't really want to do that. I never really found I really need to go back and do something else. So, I understand there's some cost involved, but I think for the student, this is an unbelievable opportunity to find that passion early, be able to succeed later in life. So, for that, I'm for it 100%. I know, I've done this for Macaulay students that come over without a program. They've come and mentorship, and I've had students come to my office in different areas with interest. It's great for a student to be able to find out find it out when you're a junior, senior, find out what your passion is and pursue the right thing and be successful. That's what we're here about, for these students to be successful after they leave the high school.
Exactly.
So, I think this is an unbelievable opportunity, the mentorship, and that this can really help our students. And that's what I'm for. I'm not looking at dissecting numbers and all that. I understand we can afford it. We do have the money to afford it, and I understand that there's some risk involved, but I'm for it 100%.
And I want to mention one more thing, and that is, the MOU comes with a 90-day termination clause, and so things don't progress in the manner we would want to see it progress. We would have the opportunity to remove ourselves from it. I just think that there's a lot of people trying to get something going together for our area. And it's exciting to me, and at the same time, I do respect everybody's opinion here. And just hope that if you have reservations and you feel like you need more information, so that you can speak up to that effect. If you're pretty comfortable with where you sit, then
issues. So
Sheriff, I think you're right, but I would just like to, I went back in time and I was thinking about Joplin schools with time. And, you know, career planning and career education offerings is not something that's new in Joplin, right? I mean, post-tornado, and Dr. Saketa, you could probably speak more to this. You know, I think we built Joplin High School with the idea that we were going to weave career education offerings into our programming. And we had hired various people, and some who were still with the district, in those positions as career counselors. And there were some good things that happened there. But unfortunately, the district just couldn't really put it together because we didn't have the manpower to partner with numerous industry partners, partner with numerous individuals within the community. And I don't even think we were talking college then, colleges. I think we were just talking about experiential learning at that point in time. So I think that in terms of the community aspect and what we do as a district, we're seeing an opportunity to partner with our community. And I struggle to shut the door on Joplin like that personally. And I think that, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander in terms of healthy schools equal strong communities. And I think this is something that we've been after for a long time. And just like Project Lead the Way, I agree with Dr. Joseph when we say we don't want to get caught up in costs as much on this because, you know, I feel like this program has faced a higher level of scrutiny than others do that we currently are a part of. And just like Project Lead the Way gives important opportunities for students to be able to earn college credit and have experiential learning to get into the engineering field, so does this in other areas. And I, for one, could say that I would love in my job, and just like Dr. Joseph said, to have somebody who's part of a CAPS program who may be interested in healthcare, in athletics, in your line of work.
You don't want to get into what I do.
Well, you know, I think Derek could probably teach them some other things too, but some life stuff is my point. But at any rate, if someone had an interest, they would be able to have that opportunity to do so. So that's why I'm in favor. But I do agree with Sherrick and Brent as well. And what John had to say, you know, when you look at those numbers, it is striking. But in addition to that, I also think that we're using federal money as well to offset these costs, and we're already spending similar dollars in other programming. I would hate to be unfair to this, put under higher level scrutiny than we do with programs that we currently already have. So that's my 2 cents.
Part of the issue I have is the money. The ESSERS is a one-time pay, correct?
Correct, but we'll have like there's probably that 19, we're going to get 19 million over 3 years of time. So.
It's still one-time pay, and I want the best for our students. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I have an issue with the money. Because if we do.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, we have great programs within the district, and I see opportunities to expand those. But I have an issue with the money and knowing, I would love to see the program expand, but just having that money out there, I have an issue with it.
And if I may add, that's one of the things that I really like about this structure. And I'm glad you brought up that point because we do have 3 years of ESSER funding, and then we could face a funding cliff. With our MOU, we can get out of this in 90 days. And this, unlike Project Lead the Way or our early childhood expansion that we just approved, we don't have payroll risk with this because these are not our employees. So if we had to walk away, we wouldn't be having to reduce any force with this program because that risk sits with Missouri Southern since they're their employees, which to me is an argument for why it fits very well with ESSER. Because in 3 years, we would expect the program would expand, and then we'd look at what we're paying for other programs and say, is this an FTE we want to bring on? Or, reevaluate it at that time. Was it successful? Was it not?
But I guess part of my issue there is the 90 days. I don't believe a program like this is going to swell up in 90 days.
No.
And so once we're out of that 90 days, we're stuck in a contract. So,
No.
Anytime. You just have to give 90 days.
oh,
notice.
okay.
3 months.
And we wouldn't do that in the middle of the semester.
Right, well, so I misunderstood because I was thinking there's a program like this, there's no way it can happen in 90 days.
Right.
So we send Missouri Southern a note, we want out in 3 months, it's done. We're done.
Yes.
Even in a year.
I just want to say, we built the high school, we combined with Franklin Tech, and this fits perfectly in the current and past mission statement of the school. The vision and purpose of the school, it fits perfect. And in 2014, we were trying to do something very similar to this by keeping the career path coordinators on. You remember that, Dave? We were trying to keep a couple of them. And the reason for keeping a couple of them was to do just this, but we didn't have a college component to it. We put the personalized learning experiences in so that kids could self-direct and go out to the community and say, hey, I've kind of maxed out, or there's something in the curriculum that's not there for me. I'd like to partner with one of my teachers. There's a community partner out there that I would like to get credit with, and we could design credit for it. And we probably had 25 to 40 kids a year taking advantage of that for different reasons in their schedule, but the kids had to self-direct it. What we didn't have the budget for when we got into the new school was to really have our adults go out there and find those business partners that Missouri Southern's working with right now to have those experiences and also give high school credit for it, like what happened in this scenario. So, and I realize that Franklin Tech, there's some potential risks, or at least in their thoughts. I think over time, it'll be fine. I do think the heartburn is, are we going to guarantee, is what I'm thinking, what I'm hearing from some, is are we going to guarantee all the spots are going to be filled?
Nope.
We can't guarantee that. And I think the ability to get out of the risk is good for us in case we can't. And I do think sitting down with students and shopping this program around and talking to them in real detailed terms for whoever wants to listen in the immediate future is very important. And so I really do think it complements what the school was put together for extremely well.
Engagement.
And
This is about engaging with
Yeah.
our community, with our university in ways that we never have before. What is that word? And you don't know how that might be returned through advertising at Jump State, through scholarship opportunities for this direct program, to just a contribution to our school district to do whatever. We don't know. I believe, whether it's this program or something else, this school district has got to find ways to engage with our community. And this is it. I mean, it meets our education purposes. It just seems to flow perfectly. And I really respect what is being said, that those who are exercising concern, I get it. But this is a unique opportunity in our history to invest in that potential. And I don't know what's going to happen. And my hope is that it will.
I guess I'd have less reservation. And to be honest, I don't know. I know kind of where I sit because of how I feel about the money and being a good steward of the money. And knowing that if we put 20 kids in here, our actual cost per credit hour or hours goes up even higher. I guess I would feel more comfortable knowing that, hey, we've got 20 students they want to do this and 10 more are thinking it. Going in this blind, I personally, whether it's $100,000 or $150,000, we've got it and it's extra money. I don't spend money like that. It'd be different if we had more information. So I can't honestly say that I can make a conscious decision for yes or even no without having, I guess, more information from students.
Derek, I think you're right. I think Dr. Moss, I think as a board, if we're so inclined, I like the idea of instructing her to chat with our counselors and see if there's more of an interest. I know we talked about that at one meeting. And I agree with you. I think
And just get a
we
better
need to get a
feel.
gauge, a temperature on this.
Right.
I agree.
I want what's best for the students, but I have a hard time spending that kind of money. And if there's 25 kids or 20, that's a lot of money per credit hour. I mean, so that's kind of how I feel. I don't want to spend, the taxpayers' money on something that we may have 3 kids, and whether we can cancel it or not, that's still money that's going to go out.
We're paying, I think, for experience and credit hours too.
Right.
That's how I see it. But I think you're right. You're spot on. We need to ask.
Do a little more research.
We need to
before we
ask
jump
Dr.
in.
Moss to do that. And personally, that's why I'm in favor of instructing her to do that so we can move forward.
And we're going to have some students that are advanced that we can go to them and say, are you interested in doing this? We may have some that aren't.
On both ends.
Exactly.
Exams, regular courses.
Right.
Whatever the case may be.
We'll just feel them out and see where they stand. And, I would love to jump in. I'd love to see 200 kids go to this.
Right.
But right now we don't have, but maybe, I would guess a handful.
Sure.
And
Is
that's
there a motion in there somewhere?
I still have some questions and comments, but I don't want to necessarily take up any more time, but, and I don't think I don't know that I can disagree with anything that's been stated tonight, because it's obviously a great program. It's going to benefit our kids. It's going to benefit our community. I know for me, Dr. Skedis mentioned that we can't guarantee we can fill the 59 kids, and that's fine. The problem is we're guaranteeing that we're going to pay for 59 kids. And that's the problem for me. That's one of my large hangups, is that we're guaranteeing Missouri Southern that we're going to pay for these 59 kids at this particular cost. And I know the one thing you had said, Sherrick, was that SSU is committing funds to this. And the problem is, from my perspective, is that they're not committing any funds. This is solely funded by the local school districts. And you can see from the very first dollar to the very one on the bottom, the $299,760 matches the revenue below that. If you go down an inch or two, you'll see that. And so, this is going to benefit Missouri Southern as well, at least in theory, in regards to if we are able to put 59 of our kids through this program, and then the area schools as well, one would think that they may put themselves on track to attend Missouri Southern and use those credits to be a Lion, so to speak, which would be great. And so it bothers me that we're absorbing all of the costs of this. We're guaranteeing that. That's one of my, that's the largest concern for me. You give me a scenario where, I would love to be in Southern's position here. They have no risk in this. If they get one kid from Joplin, one kid from Carl, one from Webb, they're fully funded. That's from our perspective, that's bad business. From theirs, man, if I could be in that situation, I would love to be. I would offer that to each and every one of you, regardless. It's at no risk to them. The other thing, I think there are a lot of unintended consequences, and I know David mentioned in one of his responses was that he may have to up his advertising for his programs because he knows Missouri Southern is going to. And so that tells me right away there is going to be some competition between kids. And Dr. Joseph, your comment about kids and the ability to shadow and observe and test drive, so to speak, I think it's a great idea. But we're also already doing that to some degree in a lot of our other programs. I know my kids have been able to. They've been fortunate enough to be in some programs where they're getting these soft skills in different programs that they're in, or they're reaching, or they're being able to go out into different industries and explore some of those types of things. And kids all over our school are being able to do that, whether it's through Franklin Tech or through different programs that we offer at the high school, or our dual credit or AP courses that we have. And there's dozens of those as well. I have a question about, so it's $50 per credit hour for this program. What are the high school students paying for dual credit courses that they're already attending at the high school? Do we have a number? Is it also 50 or is it more or less?
It depends on who it's through.
Okay,
We heard a reference to the Crowder, and that's 65.
right.
And then our other programs, and I believe Terry helped me out with that because I wasn't here.
And I didn't mean to
so I'll
put you on the
set
spot.
up.
If you don't know, that's totally
But
fine.
no, I
But
think-
but
I
if it's a
think
dual credit business class, I don't know if there is
I
one.
believe it says
50.
$50 to $50 an hour for
Okay.
Missouri Southern.
So,
And the vast majority of our courses, dual credit courses, are through Missouri Southern.
right, and I anticipated that. So, one of the things that might happen, we have high school teachers who teach dual credit and they get an extra stipend for doing that from Missouri Southern. I assume that's how that probably works. If this thing does succeed, and I hope it does if we're a part of it, I hope it does if we're not a part of it. One of the unintended consequences, you might have a high school teacher who teaches dual credit, no longer have enough kids to be able to host a dual credit in the classroom because this program took, 2 or 3 or however many kids. I don't know, but that's another one of those, in my opinion, I think it's an unintended consequence from this particular program. I could be wrong.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If I recall, aren't several of the classes that you guys intend to teach not the typical English 1, English 2, and all those things? And if you have other classes, dual credit, you have courses on your campus that would be dual credit for our students that aren't your typical liberal arts track in this program.
If I understand what you're saying, the 3 fall classes, Introduction to Health Sciences, Introduction to Human Services, and Introduction to Business, are not classes that are taught in high schools as part of dual credit. They are standalone for CAPS.
Exactly. And what a lot of our high school kids will do, and we do offer some others, and I can't remember because I'm not looking at the catalog like you used to a few years ago, but hopefully and typically, high school kids will try to get the requirements that they're going to have to get in college, done in high school. And we think that's great because they have a high school teacher as many as 5 days a week. That's awesome. Somebody that, hopefully, this is expanding the course that they're offering. When we balance it against what we're offering, we'll expand the course offerings for our students versus getting competition like you're suggesting. I understand what you're saying. That's exactly, could be true if we're teaching the same class exact same class every bit of the way on campus, our campus, as they are at Southern, then someone's missing out.
And I just mentioned business because
Yes.
it was in the proposal as something that may come along in the future, next year or whatever.
Or if it's offered in first and second period or sixth and seventh, because you can only take one or the other. So it may not be the same class, but you limit.
But you're picking a dual credit course.
Yeah. You're still getting dual credit.
Right.
I want to apologize. I just looked at the cost covered by MSSU in 2021-22, and I didn't mean to misrepresent the board. So-
Oh, no, and I hope I didn't imply that. I just don't.
I see that.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah. Their financial skin is not in this game, in my opinion, so. And then just with the liaison, so one of the questions I had was who would we have in our district? Would we have to hire someone new? Would it be someone currently on staff? Who would that person, what would that look like? The response I got was that we wouldn't need one.
Suzanne Hull would do the majority of that liaison work, not only between Joplin High School and the other high schools in the university, but also with our industry partners. We've had some preliminary discussion with our counselors about this, and I do believe that there would need to be some in-service with our counselors. And then, of course, we would be active alongside MSSU of promoting the program. And then it would be a matter of scheduling and then tracking credits like we do with any course.
Well, I just mentioned that because I thought in the MOU that it mentioned that we would need to hire, maybe not hire, but
Designate.
A liaison
Who they
between
would
the
talk
two.
to.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that would be our junior and senior counselors.
So are we gonna have a motion to table?
You can make
I just have
whatever motion you
one
want to
quick
make.
question from Missouri Southern. Brad, is there a way that we could reduce the number of students in this?
For Joplin?
For Joplin?
Certainly.
I mean, before we get in, we are at 59 right now. Web City and Carl Junction, 35 to 26. Can we reduce the seat allocation before?
But will that change their
Expenses.
expenses because they were hiring 2 instructors?
They'll still need the strand instructors.
With that, my guess is when it come to, I'm here and I get what Brent's saying, as a way for us to move forward. Is there a way that we could work towards, I guess, a lower cost to the district?
Well, if we lowered seats, is that going to bring their cost up? Or your cost of operation up and be our cost per student up as well?
So the model is predicated on 120 seats. If Joplin chose to reduce its seat allocation, we would seek other school districts who could fill that gap.
My personal thought is to find out how many students, because you can always add seats. Correct. And see, and maybe let them pursue some, if we decide we only want 30 seats, let them pursue.
Right.
Where we're not absorbing as much cost, because the couple of parents that reached out to me, that's one of their things. Well, we can go to Southern and get this for X amount of dollars, and it's this, and whether it's $100 or $50 extra, it's extra money. So I would say we need to do just a little bit more research. I would make a motion to.
I have one more question.
Okay.
So, and it may be for Mr. Rockers, it may not be able to get answered, but so if a student or a sending district like Carl Junction or whoever might come to Franklin Tech, do we charge them by the person and how they enroll, or do we charge the district, we're going to charge you for 10 seats?
We charge, right now, our fee is $2,800
Per kid, only if they enroll. Okay. And I just can't see us doing anything different. I mean, if we get 59 kids, let's pay for 59 kids. If we get 5 kids, let's pay for 5 kids, and we have to do a better job of advertising it, or you guys have to up your game, or whatever the case might be. That's how I feel. We pay for the seats that we use, right or wrong. That's something I can definitely get behind, but I don't know that I could support
So how do we
paying for
want to
59
make the
seats.
motion?
I don't know that that's.
I think,
Or just table it,
it
period.
seems like every time we've talked about this, we got Macaulay in the mix, we have College Heights. It seems like the more we press Missouri Southern, the more that they're coming to the table with more solutions for major.
So do we just make a motion to table this for right
So
now?
I make a motion to table the consideration of Missouri Southern State University Moso CAPS Memorandum of Understanding into our December,
Yeah, you can only do it 1 month,
okay, so
parliamentary procedure.
So it's November, right?
Yeah.
Yep, it'd
Next
be
Monday.
December, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
No,
That's what I
so you
said.
can't do it any farther out than
But that's what I
Because
said.
you can only do it 1 month at a time.
Right.
Right, so
So-
to our December meeting.
And see what happens. And Dr. Moss knows of kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think we.
Sounds like you want a survey of interest.
I would like a survey of interest, and then that would give, instead of making a complete decision on it in December, if we have to push out again and say, okay, we've got 14, so let's pay for 18 spots. It's 4 extra, just in case someone could make up their mind, and that would give them an opportunity to maybe look at some other districts to add to their 120 seats.
And ask Missouri Southern to continue to reach out to neighboring districts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Would
you know.
Missouri Southern be able to come out and do a presentation to interested students maybe before our next board meeting, so we could maybe get an idea to present what you have to offer and see what interest there would be? It'd be good if
one
they
of the
could come
things-
out. I mean, you can call counselors and do whatever, but I think if we said, had these students that were interested, come to the auditorium, Missouri Southern's there, and give this explanation, then we can see how many students are
I think that
interested.
could
Then
be
maybe
an
that we
option.
get 100 kids lined up.
I
Well,
was
if they're
just
getting out of
sitting-
class, yes.
I was just
So-
sitting here
Get them taken to
brainstorming.
McDonald's and then they'll be gone, it'll be done.
I was just sitting here brainstorming what that could look like for our 2,200 students. So
I mean, there's
It
a
might be-
2-minute video that shows it.
that's one of the things I was thinking about is if Missouri Southern could prepare some kind of promotional video. And then through our transitions class, it seems like that might be a natural avenue to show that. And then have some simple questions just gauging interest and commitment among our juniors and seniors.
I think
And,
Riley,
and Dr. Gilbreth or someone else may have an even better idea of how to accomplish that, but
Can I just clarify on the survey, interest versus commitment? What exactly you're looking for at this point in the year?
A little of both.
Yes.
Kind of
I
has to be
mean, we
committed.
like commitment, but
They're not going to be able to commit though. I mean, that's.
they're not gonna be able to commit to the
So-
program, but if we've got 60 that are interested, that'd be great. And we know to push forward with 59. So I would,
So the
that's how
interest,
you're,
the interest number would be beneficial as
help
you
us make this
process.
decision. If
the
we've got
financial
80
piece.
interested, all 80 aren't gonna go, but then that 59
Right.
spot seems
And
pretty good.
that's what I wanted to clarify, if we do an interest survey, to
And
be
if we
clear on the
take care of
interest
the 120 and
versus.
go, hey, we've got 7 other students who want this, I don't believe it'd be a problem to add 7 seats to that.
Brian, can I ask you a question? What city in Carl Junction have committed to this? Did you attend any of their board of education meetings or anything like that?
Only for the final vote, which in both cases was unanimous.
And so, what am I missing here? I mean, what are they saying that we're not? Do you know, I mean, that's a ridiculous question. I don't know how to ask it, but I mean, they obviously didn't hesitate. And this is a proportional ask. I mean, we're asking no more of our district than I believe has been asked of Webb City or Carl Junction. Yet they were prepared to commit. Is it because they're not concerned because they don't have a Franklin Tech, or because, I mean, I don't know. Is there any discussion along the lines that we're having? Because I want everybody to understand my position. When I got Brent's, I've had the benefit of reading Brent's questions. Not everybody here has. They are perfectly legitimate and reasonable questions. And they impressed me because he put more thought into it than I did. I listened to the presentation, knew that there were CAPS programs throughout the state. It'd be nice for us to have a CAPS program. And I kind of went on about my day. I'm glad that I had the board members who want to perform due diligence, who want to make sure that they are being reasonable and good stewards of their district's money. I hope nobody thinks that I would be cavalier with district money, because I wouldn't be. I believe this is a larger investment than just these classes. I want everybody to understand that as well. But is there any insight that you can offer? And you don't need, the answer can be no, that's perfectly fine. But they seem to be very confident in their decision-making. And is there something that we're missing? I mean,
Well, I wouldn't presume to answer that specific question, because the mind of each board member, they're asking themselves the same questions that each of you are asking yourselves. I will tell you, they did their due diligence. They asked questions about transportation. They asked questions about costs. Their superintendents were at the table when the cohort size, the budget was all been adjusted over the last few months. And so they've had the same opportunity. Their numbers were based on their census data that's submitted to MDHE. So you're right, it is a proportional impact.
their cost per student is the same as we're being.
Their cost per student is identical. Yeah. So I wouldn't speak on their behalf, but they did perform their due diligence, asked great questions. We answered them, and then they acted.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
No,
That's
okay.
No, well, no,
I think
how
it's-
about one that's a little more, do they have dual credit classes with Missouri Southern right now? Webb City and
Absolutely.
Carl Junction, they do also. Okay.
So they never came up that they were worried about filling those seats and losing money on those seats?
To my recollection, the dual credit cannibalism issue did not come up with either of those districts, but that was 2 months, 3 months ago. So but no, I don't recall. I recall transportation. I recall going through the budget just as we've done, showing them the video, but I don't recall a dual credit question.
I do think it's worth comparing what we have in our course catalog with what they intend to offer. There's nothing wrong with that, because I'm hoping, and I think it's going to show that we're expanding offerings for our kids. Because we can't teach everything in Joplin High School.
That's the whole point. I mean, that's a big sell.
I'm not finding in our current offerings that it would duplicate the intro classes. The only things that would possibly come in comparison would be some certified nurse assistant, medical terminology. So medical terminology may be one in the health science field. Engineering graphics 1 and 2, but I don't know that that is going to end up impacting what the future dual credit would be. But the 3 intro classes, there's nothing currently that would compete with that.
Engineering graphics for Vietnam, Missouri Southern.
That's an FTC through Crowder.
FTC, okay.
So
And I'm
again,
not sure how many students actually take those
I'll second
offerings.
All right, there's a motion tabled to December. There's a second. Discussion?
On the survey, I think it's important that we survey current juniors and/or seniors, especially seniors that wouldn't participate in this next year, but asking them, if it would have been offered this year, would you have been able to fit it into your schedule, those types of things? Because there's going to be some logistics. Obviously, we know this already with Franklin Tech and whatnot, but I think that's as important as interviewing or surveying sophomores for next year as well as juniors, engaging their interests. So that's just a thought, but.
I'll third your second.
All right, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. That motion has been tabled. Thank you, Brad. Next up, consideration of thought exchange agreement.
Yes, I believe since the board engaged Mark Manus and his team to guide the district through this year's strategic planning process, he has shared with each of you the thought exchange resource. We also did a mock thought exchange when our board officers were together the other day. And he feels like this is a resource that would effectively roll into not only the strategic planning process, but also as a resource for the continuing communication plan that the board also tasked him to develop. I did a little research through the vendor and found the 17 districts that are listed in your board packet that are current subscribers to Thought Exchange. I talked with the superintendent at Cassville. He was very fond of it and found a way to engage community on numerous levels with that. So I'm not sure the extent that Mr. Manus was able to visit with each of you about it, but I haven't received any questions since the board packet went out. The annual fee is $21,600, and we would start that in December with training, and then we would get that engaged fairly quickly. So administration joins the district's consultant in recommending purchase of Thought Exchange as part of its strategic planning and communications efforts.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion by Dr. Joseph, a second by Riley. Discussion?
It says pricing in Canadian dollars.
You're right.
What?
It has a
It does
star
say
and it
Canadian
says
dollars,
pricing in Canadian dollars.
Oh, well,
I don't know.
So we
that-
may be getting a benefit.
I was just
Because
gonna say,
our
I don't
money's
think,
worth more than the Canadians.
but if we approve this,
we'll approve it in US dollars, and then if I find out different, I'll let you know. How about that? Designate that in.
trying to help save some money for the districts.
So just two things. I mean, he did mention the concept, but I haven't seen a demo on it. And I personally, I'd like to see a demo. And then the second point is the timing seems off. I mean, to do this December 1st, when Christmas is a couple weeks away, it seems like people get a little distracted between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Why wouldn't you push this off and say, hey, let's do training in January and then go forward in February? Because then you've got that whole semester plus the fall semester to see how it works. But again, personally, I'd like to see a demo on it before we even commit the funds. And then I'd adjust the timing also because it just seems off.
Well, we could, it aligns for our training and then its usage in the strategic planning timeline, but if we need to push it off a month, we would certainly do that and to be able to get the product.
Yeah, and just, again, I know that people between Thanksgiving and Christmas, they're really highly distracted. I don't generally introduce new things in that period of time because it tends to disappear between Christmas and New Year's and you start all over again.
So I'd make a motion to table that item until next month. Is that what we're talking about?
Second.
So there's a motion.
We already have a motion on that second on the
Yeah,
table.
yep, so,
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
yeah, we have to back that up.
Well, he made a motion to.
No, so who?
There was already a motion by Dr. Joseph and seconded by Riley.
Right.
So that's the primary motion, and you're not amending that motion.
He is amending it.
Well,
He's making a
Amending it to
motion
table for a month.
And
to
would you,
December, so we can look at the program.
would you accept that amendment?
Thank you. I don't think it has to.
He doesn't have to.
You have to vote on the amended version.
Right. On the tabling.
Yes, before you can do the.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second on the tabling. So let's.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Maybe some comments even. Number one, I don't like the idea that we hired a research specialist, and I'm gonna throw out a number, I think it was 75,000, I don't remember the exact number. And now he's telling us or guiding us that he needs another product that's gonna cost us, and I know it says 21,000, but I'm looking at 2 years before we know the effectiveness of how we're gonna use this thing, so I'm gonna say it's 45,000, because I think it's 24 every year after that, if I'm reading that correctly. So number one, I have a problem with that, but what is it replacing? What do we have? Because it seems to me, and I did a little bit of research on this. It seems to me like it seems like a glorified Survey Monkey to me, which is free. So number one, what is it replacing? What do we already have in place that we kind of use that this would be taking the place of?
I think without the demo, it's hard to explain that. We don't have anything that this would be replacing.
So why do we need it, I guess, then? That would be the next question.
The board officers did benefit from the demo, and I can't answer that question other than, as a board, we have often talked about the need to have access to our district.
And we haven't taken advantage of that several times.
This is,
We have not, to my.
This is my understanding, the opportunity to create conduit into our district for people to communicate better with us, address concerns, whatever. It's almost like
An email?
Chat room.
I don't know. That's what it seems like to me.
You know, this is not my view.
I mean, I know we have the funds, but it's just because we have the funds, I don't know that we need to spend it.
This is like suggestion box type. How was it described? We were asked to engage with it, and that's just not, I'm not really very good at that.
It was forced ranking, pick which one you feel like agitated, interested, obscure. And it's basically taking those and saying, okay, this is what your population, the prompts.
We don't have
Right.
Yeah, it's basically sets up a virtual environment, and then those that log in and participate then can share their comments based on the prompt. And so part of the training is to teach us as the thought leaders, and that would start with our core admin team, how to write a good prompt so that you get to the answers that you want, because having a good question is 90% of the issue. And then those that log in and participate rate the comments then that the community follows with. And so out of that, you get these, you can learn what's polarizing. What are people saying? Hugely agree or hugely disagree? Where are the issues where there's really no middle ground? Or the responses are really skewed toward this issue. So if we were talking about, say, something like our COVID reentry plan, or we were talking about long-term facility planning, and we were talking about, the bond issue, there's numerous things that we seek input, and it can also be used in the classroom. It can be used with parents. It can be used with the greater community. But it sets up a virtual environment then that people engage with the conversation, and it gives you those statistics. And without a demonstration, it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
So.
And John, I'm with you. I did ask a couple of questions on it in our email. Would this be a district level building principals or teachers? How far down does it go? And then along with yours, John, are there topics already that would go through the program? Like we could list those out before our 12 months starts. What do we want to learn from it? That way, when it's January 1st or July, whatever the date is, then we already have, okay, we're going to do this week 1, this week 2, this week 3, so we don't inundate. But I mean, if we're going to do something, I'd like to know that we already have a plan other than starting the clock and going, okay, now let's come up with some good questions. And maybe Mark's Manus has got already some queued up that we just don't know about yet. And so, I mean, again, I'm supportive. It's just the timing and, is it the right method? We need that feedback.
It is in British Columbia, so it is a 22% discount off that. So it would be about.
It's $4,000 or $5,000.
Since we're always into dollars and cents around here, that is $5,000 off that number.
It would be, you're right.
Put that towards
Gotta
your
put my
account.
2 cents in.
Okay, so there was a
That's good to know.
a
So I
secondary.
would leave it as the Canadian.
So Dr. Monge, what will you use to survey the students? Do you know?
Currently with
Yeah, like
previous
tomorrow or next week
item?
or next whatever.
likely Google form.
Okay. What does that cost to us?
It's part of our technology suite. So that is a large, it's zero, but a large
Right.
package within our Google suite.
No additional costs. Okay. Can you gain the information that you need to ascertain from that? Can you create a form that?
We'll create a Google form and gather the summary responses from
Is
that.
Thought Exchange anonymous? Or
Yes.
Is Google Forms affiliated with an account?
It does not have to be.
It does not have to be, you can turn that off.
And would they know it's turned off?
Well, we tell them it's turned off.
Right.
They don't always trust that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll speak for employees.
That's what also I'm thinking, if we want some honest feedback and there's a fear of you can trace it back to me, that's also a concern.
We use that, for instance, with our principal satisfaction surveys, and there is still, even though we're
Yeah.
probably 6 years into those utilizations, because Dr. Ritter used it before I came,
Right.
there is still
Some
every
hesitancy.
year expression made of, I'm not filling this out because you can trace my email address back to this. So that's a good point.
So, okay.
Thank you.
All right. So after discussion, we have a secondary motion to table it.
Yes.
We're going to vote on the secondary motion. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. That motion is tabled. That passes.
So set a demonstration for the December board
Yeah.
meeting. Okay.
And then I'd also kind of like to see.
Or before,
Yeah.
if you could send it.
I mean,
If it's something we could just,
play.
is it something we watch?
Play video.
It's live interaction.
Oh, okay,
For
okay,
us.
okay.
Okay. And then just a suggestion to maybe come up with some questions that Mark has or that we want to ask out of the gate. That way, if we get to go December 15th, we know, okay, these are the first things we're going to ask. Next up, approval of the audit report.
I move we approve the audit.
I'll second that motion. There's no discussion needed. It was perfect. It's good.
Motions by Sherrick, second by Derek. Please vote.
I would like discussion. I want to thank Ms. Cobb, great job.
Yes, very, very good job.
Yes,
And
very
you
good
beat me
work.
to that because I was getting ready to spit it out.
Already told her.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, that passes. Thank you. All right, next we've got accounts payable.
We have a bill list of $6,498,774 for your review, so.
Can we pay it in Canadian?
Do we have the money to pay this? I would make a motion that we pay our bills as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by Derek, second by Dr. Joseph. Discussion, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay, that motion passes. Next up, petition for unit clarification to add food service to the Joplin Education Support Professional JSEP bargaining unit.
Yes, and I would ask if Carrie Ness, President JESP, and Dr. Lentz all right to come up as representatives of the union. We've had the food service employees were recognized as a group in 1988, as well as our custodians, and JSP formed them into the union, and the food service folks never really have. They've tried for a couple of years, I think, Melissa, and were not successful in doing so. And so they were interested in doing that again. And so in cooperation with the union, they've presented a clarification of bargaining to the State Board of Mediation to clarify the bargaining unit to come into JESP. And so we had that original bargaining group, and then we added bus aides 2019 here, or was it
Within the last 2 years.
last 2 years. And so this would just be expanding that bargaining unit to add food service employees to JESP. So anything that the two of you would like to add? Carrie is our president of JESP, and you've seen her again last year during bargaining time. And then Melissa Albright is our new UNISERV director, and we've been working both with them through this process. So
I'd like to thank you all for hanging in touch with us.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize. Normally, we want to move these things where we've got people sitting in the audience towards the top of the list, and I apologize for not catching that.
And in the spirit of cooperation with your group, I would like to move that we approve the petition for unit clarification, case number 10349.0025 with the State Board of Mediation on November 1st.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Riley.
All right, motion by Sherrick, second by Riley. Discussion?
Nope.
You want to join?
This has been a long time coming, and I'm glad that we've been able to.
Just want to make
finally get it.
sure. It's not a shotgun wedding, so yeah, they want to join, so please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
I had a question about we.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Please go
I
ahead,
didn't-
John.
Just, my question was, are they currently represented at all?
No.
Or not? Okay, and so, and is somebody here with the food service group?
there's
And normally, forgive me, but there's a process that you go through, and I guess the question is that what the group wants? Did they vote for that? I mean, how did they come to the conclusion that they wanted to join?
Last year, they wanted to join, and there was a turnover in leadership with the JESP. And so in the turnover of leadership, the ask to bargain on behalf of food service was overlooked. And so we had to wait until this term to have them added to the contract.
So the food service group petitioned JESP.
No, the interest was already there. When I was hired for this position on July 1st, the previous UNISERV director had already acknowledged that there was an oversight last year and that the food service had wanted to be part of this.
So I can explain to you that we had a president and a vice president that stepped down out of their roles. And then we also had a change in the UNISERV director. My understanding is that the former leadership, both the UNISERV director and the other two, they've actually been trying to do this for about 2 years, Carrie, or 5, but in the last 2 that I know, and they were not able to meet the statutory hurdles, I guess, in time frame and timelines. So this is the first year that they've been able to meet the deadlines and get everything together in order to come in.
So they met all that from a process procedural.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. And then, Justin, is this something that you're recommending also?
Well, so yes, it would be my administration's recommendation that the board approve this. When we do collective bargaining, a lot of the employees do get the benefit of what is bargained anyway. And I do think that it does have, in my opinion, there's districts like Springfield that Melissa works with that have how many different contracts?
We have 5 contracts and we just voted to organize, and we'll be creating a contract for the school resource officers and dispatchers.
And so they have the right, if they don't want to come into this bargaining unit, they can also bargain individually and have another third contract. And so I do think it's in our interest that when we're dealing with contracts, both with our supervisors and our principals, when we deal with discipline, we have to look at those every time. They're just enough the same and just enough different that I have to look every time something happens. And so I do think it's a value to our supervisors that we have this bargaining unit which essentially I think of it this way, JESP is basically all of our classified staff, which you think bus drivers, custodians, bus aides, all that, and then we have our certified, which is JEA. So I do think that them coming into this agreement is beneficial for them and the district, as opposed to bargaining a separate agreement.
Okay, very good.
And there's
Thank
a
you.
difference because they were recognized back in 1988. They're not starting from scratch either.
Yes. They are recognized for the State Board of Mediation. And so that we will take this, if the board should choose to accept this unit clarification, that will go on to the State Board.
Okay.
Congratulations. Okay, next up, external electrical service to support ancillary vehicles for student health assistance.
We have one particular entity that comes in and does a great service for our students, Access Dental. And they come in and spend as many days as they can to make sure all the students in a particular school have access to have checkups. And so to do that, it's really kind of a big pain to have electrical lines and cords all over the building to get the right type of power to that vehicle. Cue you up?
That works. That works. They're running either electric power or running generators. They have a large mobile unit, essentially an RV that they're bringing in. And so what we're proposing is in 14 different locations, breaks down to about $1,600 per location, to have those hardwired with 240 volt attachment boxes that are lockable so that we can keep people out of those, but will simplify and actually make safer the entire process. And the low bid that we have on that is from Bill's Electric for $22,000.
I'd make a motion that we approve the external electric service, accept the bid, Bill's Electric. I know most of the guys from Bill's.
I'll second.
It's a motion by Derek, second by Brent. Discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay, that motion passes. All right, next up, Jet HD iMac refreshers.
So our man behind the curtain or behind the brick wall or whatever you call it back there, in his lab, he has some severely outdated iMacs that he uses for our students for the Jet HD program. All the film that they look at, all the work that they do, the video productions program in general. And so we need to refresh those machines. And Eric, do you want to add anything to that?
It's also to get it ready for broadcast capability of 4K. So when the Sparklight is able to do that, then we'll be ready for that also. Because currently we can't do that.
I make a motion to approve
I'll
the
second.
Jet HD iMac refresh.
All right, motion by John, second by Derek. Discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay, that motion passes. Okay, next up, item 16, April 5th, 2022 school board election.
Yes, so that has been set for April 5th. 2 directors will be chosen. The first date of filing for school board candidate is Tuesday, December 7th, beginning at 8 a.m. And the closing date for candidate filing is Tuesday, December 28th at 5 p.m. So those dates change statutorily. And administration recommends that the Board of Education approve the attached resolution calling for the April 5th election and approve the date of December 7th as the first date of filing, with December 28th as the last day of filing for school board candidate as required by law.
I move to approve the resolution to call for an election for the April 5th, 2022 Joplin School Board election.
I'll second.
All right, so motion by Riley, second by Derek. Any discussion?
I might just say, and I'm not sure the dates, but just so everyone
Yeah,
listening, watching,
good
there
call.
are some dates that will not be open. And I think
But
that's
we
important,
have-
so.
We have contingencies in place.
We do
Okay.
have some coverage for the required date. Do you remember which one that is, Pat? Because
December
Brent's
28th.
right. There are some dates within
Right.
Christmas break that we will not.
That is right. And if you scroll down, it shows the next page, Eric. and
Tuesday,
that
December
was in
21st, and Monday,
paper.
December 27th.
Yes.
They are closed.
Okay.
For the holidays, but we will be here December 28th, the last day of
Okay.
filing from 8 to 5. And that's, usually it's in January.
Right.
So we think that we will be
Happy
here.
New Year.
To back up, so people may be aware.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yep. And not think that when we close on the 27th that we're gone, or when we close on the 21st that we're gone, that they'll be here. So that'll be prominently displayed. Okay, there was a motion by Riley, a second by Derek. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Excellent. Policy for first readings.
Brent did an excellent job of describing our policy, particularly the public participation at board meeting. And Jeff, you provided some edits to the form, which you can see about the third page in. Asking also, have you discussed the matter with the school at the school level? Who have you brought this concern to at the next level of supervision if you were not satisfied with the outcome? So those are other edits to that policy, and then you've had a chance to review the others in your board packet. So administration recommends first reading approval of the policies as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Sherrick, second by Derek. Discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, that motion passes. Okay, last up, pluses and deltas.
Thanksgiving would be a plus.
I've got a plus.
By the hour.
East Middle School started their robotics program. So this is the first edition of their robotics program. Offered to seventh graders taking automation and robotics. They built small robots, a welder, career examples. So it looks like they're given engineering. We approved that a couple of meetings ago.
And it's not just at East, it's also at South and
That
North.
is our
That
middle school
newsletter is East.
All the middle
CLTW
schools
robotics
are
class,
doing
and
it.
I believe we are bringing you a
Yes.
special treat in December to check that out for yourself.
Okay.
So stay
Excellent.
tuned. Little teaser.
All right. Any other pluses?
I think the fact that we have a clean audit, that's the first time, I know it's the first time since I've been here. There's been a few times where I'm like, is that, really? I mean, so, and then nothing horrible, but just things that you would think. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's great.
No material findings,
Yep.
but to have also no non-material findings is terrific.
The fact that we're under budget at Kelsey Norman, that's
Yeah,
kudos.
I would echo not only under budget, but the school looks great.
Yeah,
I was there for ribbon cutting. I think it looked great.
Maybe a delta, I want to apologize. I didn't mean to leave any, not that anyone wanted to read my diatribe, but, I just sent it to our board leadership and Dr. Moss, of course. And so I hope, I didn't mean to leave anyone out. If anyone felt like that, that was definitely not something I intended to do.
And I'm glad, I think a plus is you pointed that out, that it wasn't intentional. I mean, you get the sunshine that you can't copy everybody on all these, or else you inadvertently create a meeting. So thanks for pointing that out too.
Absolutely. Plus, discussion. It's always good. I mean, agree, disagree, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate we don't get together more and discuss important issues and get her going.
All right, Sheriff's
And I'll
House
just
after
say
this.
that your beard looks better than mine, but neither of ours looks as good as Justin's to end.
And on that note, I would make a motion to adjourn.
So second, motion and a second.
Yes.
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 Yes, we're adjourned. Yes.